Imagine if, out of nowhere, you wake up in the past, but not exactly the same past you know. Because now, on top of dealing with school, family, and some kind of annoying classmates, you also discover that to survive in this world, you need to become a martial artist. There's no easy tutorial, no beginner mode, just a life full of problems, a sketchy system, and lots of confusion. And that's exactly what we like, right? The story kicks off with a dude named Fang Ping dropping the bomb that it's April 5th, 2007. In the city of Yang, in the third year of Class 4, he's just realized something wild. He's been sent back 10 years into the past. To be more specific, he's in a parallel world where things are a bit different from his old life. Suddenly, a bro chimes in, asking Fang and Chen Fan if they're signing up for the martial arts exam since there are only 2 days left. The classmate next to him says the registration fee is 10,000 and he'd just be tossing money away since he knows he wouldn't pass. Another guy jumps in, saying he wants to register too, since it's the only way for a regular dude to become legendary. Then, another kid interrupts, asking if they heard the latest scoop that the Great Master Ma hit the 8th level and Tai Mu officially challenged him. The hyped-up boys leap to their feet, asking if that's for real, saying the Great Master Ma just hit the 7th level a few years back. Fang is still lost, trying to figure out what's going on. The kid spills that the report is on CCTV, while other students start speculating if the Great Master will crack the top 30 or even the top 20. Watching all this unfold, the protagonist realizes he's definitely in another world, saying he's seen isekai animes before. A bit awkwardly, he calls out to his friend, asking if this Great Master Ma is Manhwa Peng. His friend gets all fired up, saying it's disrespectful to call the Great Master by his full name, leaving Fang shocked to find out that's actually his name. Feeling a bit jittery, he glances at Chen Fan and agrees that was kinda rude. While tapping his mouth nervously, he thinks there must be something off for him to ask that, concluding it might look suspicious to be so curious. Still anxious, the protagonist asks if there's a cyber cafe near their school, and his friend says there is, asking if he doesn't go there often. A bit flustered, he admits he hasn't been in ages, but he's pretty sure that cute manager is still working there. Fang remembers that during his school days, she always popped up in his dreams doing cringy stuff with him. Later, when he rolls up to the cyber cafe, he's shocked to see a goth girl at the reception and wonders if his memories are way off compared to reality. The girl spots him and perks up, asking if he wants to recharge, saying for every $50, he gets $10 free. Digging into his pocket, he realizes he's short, holding only $28. He tells the girl he'll just recharge $5. She turns her head, clearly not impressed, while grumbling and handing him a temporary membership card. After her attitude shift, Fang wonders if everyone without cash gets treated like garbage. Time flies, and he's inside the cyber cafe, using the computer, feeling a wave of surprise hit him. Still in shock, he decides he needs to take the martial arts exam. The boy thinks everyone knows that no matter what you want to do, you gotta be a martial artist first. In this world, martial artists are the real deal, holding mad power in society, divided into 9 levels, with 1 being the lowest and 9 the highest. To run a company here, you gotta be a martial artist. It's the same in the entertainment biz. All the big celebs in this world are martial artists. The martial arts exam is the only shot many people have to make it big. That's why Yang Jian said this is the only chance to become someone powerful. Rubbing his head, he figures passing the exam can't be a walk in the park, plus he needs to scrape together that 10,000 for the registration fee with only 2 days left. Thinking back to the isekai shows he watched in his past life, he wonders why characters like the shield hero and the slime got reborn with cheats while he didn't. Suddenly he feels a spark of hope, thinking maybe his family is loaded in this world and he could even chill in a resort. When he gets home, he realizes he's living in a rundown building. Feeling even more anxious, he admits that apparently there were a lot of hopes. Stepping through the door of his house, he takes a look around. Looking around his living room, he realizes this smell is way too familiar, and yep, it's definitely still his home. A girl comes sprinting at him, yelling that he's a thief. She skids to a stop right in front of him while he's tying his shoes. The feisty little girl demands he hand over her cash, extending her tiny hand like she's ready for a fist fight. Then it hits him. He notices her round face. Out of nowhere, he stands up and pinches her cheeks. The little girl looks totally baffled while her brother pulls her cheeks, wishing Yuan hadn't lost that adorable face as she got older. She slaps his hands away, making him let go, and repeats her demand for her money. Fang, totally lost, asks what she's even talking about. Yuan says their mom gave them $50 to split, and when she woke up, only 5 were chilling on her table. Realizing that the $28 he had were hers, he's a bit taken aback. Lying through his teeth, he tells Yuan to check again, saying maybe she blew it all on candy or something. His sister bolts to their mom who's busy in the kitchen. Yuan asks if she's not going to say anything. Their mom mentally kicks herself for spoiling them too much, thinking this is all just for a little attention. Looking at the girl, Li Yuyin tells her not to throw a fit since their dad will be home for dinner soon. Feeling a bit down, Fang remembers that back then, his mom worked part-time for $800 and wonders how he could even ask her for 10,000. Out of nowhere, their dad walks in asking if dinner's ready. The boy remembers his dad risks it all every day for 3,000. A bit annoyed, his dad asks why he's still in his clothes and tells Fang to wash up for dinner, which he awkwardly replies he just got home. The little girl dashes toward Ming Rong, shouting that Fang stole her money again. Their dad calls him by name, making the boy sweat. A little later, everyone's gathered around the dinner table. While munching, he admits that without becoming a martial artist, he won't be able to do anything, not even change his family's life. Fang shuts his eyes, trying to gather the guts to talk to his family. He lifts his head, telling his dad he wants to take the martial arts exam. Everyone stares at him in shock, totally confused about what's gotten into him. The room goes silent, everyone exchanging glances while the protagonist thinks he must have asked for too much, wanting his family to cover the exam fee. Still a bit jittery, waiting for his dad's response, he thinks he should just backtrack. Trying to lighten the vibe, he bursts out laughing, saying he was just kidding and asks his dad not to stress about it. Surprisingly, without a word, his dad hands him a card. The boy is completely blown away and surprised by his dad's move. Ming Rong, showing zero remorse, tells his son he knows the fee is 10,000 and that he should take the card and grab the cash tomorrow. His dad simply tells Fang it doesn't matter if he passes or fails, it'll be worth every cent as long as he's sure this is what he wants. Leaving the boy even more stunned, since even though they're broke, his dad just wants to make sure he's not doing something he doesn't want. With the card in hand, Fang stares at it, wondering how he'll pay them back if he doesn't get accepted. Clutching the card, he declares with determination that he's definitely going to succeed in life. The next day, he's standing in front of the bank. With the cash in hand, suddenly his vision starts glitching out. He reports that the moment he grabbed the money, a notification popped up right in front of him. The notification said the condition was met, and that it was attempting a neural connection, which totally worked. Fang confesses that in his past life, he saw tons of stories about people being reborn, and apparently, this is his cheat system. The next morning, while a gorgeous sky hangs over his house, the protagonist is lying in bed, staring at the ceiling while beams of light stream through his window. He remembers when the system tab appeared in front of him. Fang starts mentally questioning himself, saying that based on what happened at the ATM, the amount he has in wealth depends on the cash he's holding, and if the money isn't his, the system doesn't count it. Another factor is the amount of cash that, if it's not enough, won't be registered either. He notices that since there's been a shift in his wealth status, maybe his other stats could level up too. Feeling a bit embarrassed, he shouts at the system to boost his chi and blood, but, as expected, nada happens. He stares at the system, which just sits there, totally unbothered, not even hinting it'll do what he wants. Then the boy starts calling out to the system in all sorts of ways, praising it as if it's a deity, trying to meditate, even doing some weird moves. Frustrated, he checks the status window and demands to know why nothing's changing. Super mad, he yells at the system to add something to his chi and blood or he'll throw a fit. At that moment, the system lights up bright red. Fang's jaw drops, realizing his blood and chi just went up by 1 point. Still confused, he feels something weird and can't quite figure out what's going on. Looking at his hand, he wonders if this is what it feels like to have his chi and blood boosted. With a mix of satisfaction and disappointment, he sees that his 10,000 in wealth only went up by 1 in chi and blood. Suddenly, he snaps back to reality, nervously wondering if this is actually happening. Fang quickly glances at the table where the 10,000 was. Relieved, he says that apparently the system's cash doesn't mess with his real-life money. His sister, munching on ramen, overhears everything from outside the door, saying Fang's finally lost it. A little later, at school, someone barges into the classroom, telling everyone to chill out and that those who haven't registered for the martial arts exam need to hit up the principal's office. Out of nowhere, the protagonist jumps up and his buddy Chen Fan asks if he's off to the bathroom again. Feeling a bit awkward, he tells his friend he's actually going to register. The boy looks at him, totally shocked by his choice. A few minutes later, he's already in the principal's office. A stuck-up girl says she never thought Fang would register and asks how much his chi and blood are. Looking at her, the boy thinks about saying it's 11, but that might sound weak. Yang Jian chimes in, saying the protagonist probably hasn't tested yet. Otherwise, he would have bragged about it. One of the boys mentions that last time he checked, he scored 108. At that moment, Fang's mind is blown, realizing that the gap between them is massive. The arrogant boy asks why Fang doesn't just test at home after school. One of the boys at the table stands up asking if Wu Zhihao bought a chi and blood meter. Zhihao says he needs to check his chi and blood often, so his dad got him a small one. A boy points out that even the basic ones cost a fortune. The protagonist wonders what kind of gadget costs that much. remembering that in his past life, a blood pressure monitor was just a few bucks. After school, the protagonist is already at Jihao's place, who's showing off his blood and chi meter. He sits on the meter, which clamps around his arms and neck. The boy then starts messing with the tablet. Confused, Fang asks if the results are in yet. Jihao, meanwhile, is in shock, staring at the screen without a word. He's stunned to find out that the protagonist's chi and blood value is actually 113. Just before they discover Fang's real chi and blood score, the boy was giving him a tour of his fancy house. Arriving in front of the meter, he brags while explaining what it does. Then, he sits on the meter, looking a bit nervous. The boy gestures with his hand, signaling that everything's cool. With that, Fang looks at his friend and nods. Jihao starts adjusting the machine. Finally, he pulls a blue lever. As Fang gets wrapped in a red aura that zaps him, the boy starts calling his name while staring at the screen in horror. He asks the protagonist if his blood and chi are really 113. Fang, feeling a bit more hopeful, realizes that the system and reality have different ways of measuring things. Jihao says his chi and blood are the second highest in the whole class and wonders how Fang can be so chill while he's still confused. A little later, his parents are chatting about how pricey the martial arts exam is, and now that their son's interested, they can't just ignore it. His wife pipes up saying they have 20,000 at home and if that's not enough, she'll grab more tomorrow. But suddenly, they hear Yuan yelling at his brother to stop bragging, asking how he could possibly have a score of 113. In the living room, he's pinching his sister's cheeks, making her tear up. Irritating Yuan, he's all sorry, claiming he's got skills and this year's test is totally in his grasp. Yu Yin hits him up, saying she and their dad need to chat about something important. While the little kid whines that her brother smacked her again, cheeks all puffed up, Fang says he's on his way. Peeking into the room, he's curious about what's going down. Facing his parents, he notices everyone's got that serious vibe going on. His dad looks at Fang, motioning him over. Ming Rong hands him 20,000, saying it's a sign of his love and he should grab some stuff with it. If it's not enough, just let them know, no biggie. With the cash in hand, the system counts the 20,000 again, like it's a game. His dad, smiling all gentle, says they almost messed up his future and now they're all in for his martial arts test. He stares at his dad, feeling a mix of shock and respect. After night falls, he's at his desk, eyeing the money, wondering if he should buy pills, even if they might not do much. He starts picturing himself with the pill in hand, then he imagines eating it, but whoa. He realizes it might just give him a stomachache. He covers his face with his hand, closing his eyes, thinking nothing beats the system. With that, Fang opens the status window again, ready for action. Another morning at school, he's climbing the stairs, mentally confessing he tried to boost his spirit by one last night. The boy notices that just like blood and chi, this cost him 10,000, but the twist was that it felt like a little girl's hand was stopping his head. Thoughts were racing like they were in a huge field. It was like his focus, understanding, and memory got a major upgrade. While he's feeling drowsy, he also mentions checking his physique last night. Suddenly, someone bolts down the stairs. Leaving Fang shocked, someone grabs him by the neck and slams him to the ground, making him spit blood. He curses Yang Jian, who's laughing, saying Fang's been hiding too much with his 113 points, which is more than his. Out of nowhere, a crowd of students rushes down the stairs, greeting him while Fang thinks everyone probably knows now. Unexpectedly, someone reaches into his friend's collar, leaving him totally confused. An annoyed boy tosses Yang Jian into the air. Without a word, he just stares at him while Fang asks why he's giving him that look. After comparing their bodies, the boy starts whining, asking why he can't have more points than Fang. Surprisingly, an old man climbs the stairs, asking if everyone's really there, saying it's a perfect chance. Reaching the front, he hands a huge stack of papers to Fang. Fang's shocked by what's written. It's a stack of books about martial arts techniques. The old man tells him to read these since he's got all the basic training courses covered. He remembers his dad saying that once he got into martial arts, even being behind his classmates, the teachers had his back. Fang smiles, thanking the teacher, thinking that even if it's not about his old class, he's always been a solid teacher. While climbing the stairs, the teacher says some of them can skip class today, and he'll assign a special task. Everyone, including Fang, is totally confused by what the teacher just said. Trying to explain, the teacher says this is how he met the former education director a few times before getting the chance. Then he tells his students to find Jin Yang, one of the top students from Nanjing Wuda. Leaving the airport, the boy says it's been ages since he was back in Yancheng. Looking around, he sets his suitcase down. With a grin, he says nothing seems to have changed. Across the street, students are calling out to him and waving. He turns around, surprised to see people shouting his name. The boy says it looks like everyone's been grinding hard while Fang wonders if Jin Yang is really just an average dude. Watching Jin Yang, the protagonist thinks that even though he's a martial artist, The kid's still just a high school grad. He remembers everyone freaking out before they hit the airport, shocked he didn't know who Jin Yang was. Feeling a bit awkward, he asks if he should know. A confident girl says that since they've hit this point, she's got to spill the tea, unbuttoning her jacket to show she's a huge fan of Jin Yang. She points at the protagonist, calling him by name. He's just sitting there, totally confused on the bus bench. Then she starts dropping facts about Wang Jinyang, like his height, age, and his fave thing, which is training. She mentions that even though he's not rolling in cash, he never backs down from learning martial arts. Last year he got into Nanjiang University as the top martial arts student, breaking records as an ordinary dude. She says that even in his final year, he kept grinding in martial arts without slacking off. Admiringly, she says he's still in his first year of college and already a martial artist. Getting hyped, she's all, how can the world have someone as epic as Jin Yang? While Fang just sits there, totally unbothered. Back to reality, he's hit with a surprise. Behind him is the top student at the university, surrounded by a squad of students celebrating his arrival and begging him for a speech. Annoyed and dripping with sarcasm, he says everyone's super polite. The students say they should seize the moment and ask the senior for his secret to getting into the university. Everyone's staring at him, waiting for his wisdom while Jin Yang scrambles to think of something. He says everyone should know about the 5 major martial arts tests: physical, cultivation, proficiency, experience, and judgment. The top student tells them that the 2 toughest are the experience and physical tests. He mentions that while most need a value of 110 in chi and blood to pass the admission tests, that number is pretty risky, and everyone's looking shocked. With a serious look, Jin Yang says if they can tap into their emotions, the results can be totally different. All the boys are wide-eyed at what he's saying. Not much different from them. The girls and Fang are still staring at him in disbelief. He explains that feelings like happiness, anger, sadness, and excitement can hit a limit, making their chi and blood boil, leading to awesome results. He gives the example of imagining the feeling of being humiliated. The protagonist, deep in thought, wonders if he can really picture a feeling. Jin Yang explains that if you've got experience, passing the physical test is a breeze. It's just about explosive strength, endurance, and flexibility. He asks if, given a chicken and told to kill it, they'd be able to do it or flop, and what if they were asked to take out people? At that moment, with a dark vibe and a cheeky grin, he says that taking out people is way harder than killing a chicken. The protagonist is shook hearing that. Nervously glancing at the senior, he wonders how he can say something so casually, like he's actually done it. Still watching Jin Yang, Fang questions if he's really just a college student. When he gets home, his mom asks why he's not at school. The boy just says he's got to hang with a senior today. Back in his room, lying on his bed and staring at the ceiling, he remembers Jin Yang saying that taking out people is harder than killing chickens. Quiet and a bit lost in thought, he wonders how the best student in the university can talk about this stuff so casually. With a sharp look, he concludes that Jin Yang has definitely done some serious stuff. Suddenly, a phone rings. When the person answers, a man says he's got new info about the suspect, who's fled to Kangshan, 2 provinces away, and warns that if the suspect gets away, the senior just tells him to keep an eye on the suspect until he arrives. The man apologizes, saying if he escapes again, the higher-ups will be furious. As he opens his window curtain, Jin Yang says that's the man's problem and informs him that now. He'll pay 500,000 if he captures the suspect, alive or dead. Back to the protagonist, he's deep in thought, resting his head in his hands. The boy keeps trying to focus, gathering his thoughts. Suddenly, a red light starts glowing from the tips of his fingers. With that, his chi and blood surge again by 1. Your system absorbs your other 10,000. Out of nowhere, he feels a sharp pain in his heart, like it's about to explode. Fang feels the pain so intensely that it's like his world is losing its colors. As a result, his veins bulge while he tries to tough it out through the pain. He grips his bed tightly, trying to figure out how to deal with this crazy feeling. But he just faints on his bed, veins still all pumped up. Fang can feel warm blood rushing through him, almost like he can see and feel each red blood cell doing a little dance. He opens his eyes again, the pain hitting him so hard it wakes him up for round 2. Still chilling in bed, the boy admits to himself that it hurts a ton while he's trying to breathe. With his hand on his head, he wonders why this time it hurts way more than last time. Suddenly, he glances at his hand, and something catches his eye. Looking at his arms, he sees his veins popping out like they're trying to escape, realizing this is just the aftermath of the sudden boost. As he squeezes his arm, he thinks it's like his body is slowly getting used to it, even feeling the blood flowing through him. Out of nowhere, he remembers something and jumps up. Fang throws on his uniform, saying he almost forgot to take the senior back to school. He walks past a dude carrying a cardboard box, wearing a mask and a cap that's hiding half his face. They bump into each other, and a dagger drops from the guy's hand. Quickly apologizing, the protagonist spins around. The man, trying to snatch up his dagger before anyone notices, accepts the boy's apology. With some slick moves, he hides his weapon under his clothes. Still eyeing the man suspiciously, he wonders if this is the weird neighbor from upstairs. To his surprise, the man shoots him a glare that could melt steel. Back on the bus, Jin Yang hops on, apologizing to everyone like he's the main character. One of the girls waves him over to sit next to her. Yang Jian starts saying their school is super cool, even inviting Jin Yang to give a talk before the exam. With a serious look, the protagonist asks what's so awesome about a grad coming back to his old school. His friend, a bit annoyed, says that a regular grad wouldn't be anything special, but this senior is different. As they look at him, greeting him, the young man claims he's a martial artist. His friend nudges him to think it through. After all, Jin Yang is just a college student and already a martial artist. Out of nowhere, the college student puts his hand on Fang's shoulder. He tells the protagonist that everyone's grinding to become martial artists, but can't forget that their bodies are the real deal. Leaving the boy even more shocked, Jin Yang says he doesn't know what meds Fang is on to get such a crazy boost in no time. With a simple slip in taking those strong meds, it could mess him up big time later. He warns him that if he takes medicine without hitting the gym, it could lead to some serious trouble. Fang thanks the senior for the heads up while mentally reminding himself that he really is a martial artist. After all, he totally nailed his chi and blood levels. Later that night at home, he's in his backyard stretching. The boy is cranking out dozens of sit-ups, along with a bunch of push-ups, not to mention his squats. He thinks to himself that he still doesn't feel tired. Maybe it's thanks to the boost in chi and blood in his system. Suddenly, he feels a strong vibe of danger coming from behind him, leaving him totally spooked. With a mix of annoyance and fear, he turns around. Realizing the person upstairs in the window is his new neighbor, Fang starts to wonder if that's the same dude he saw in the morning. Still staring at the guy's back, he notices that intense vibe of danger. Keeping eye contact with the man, he feels nervous and on edge. As he closes the door of his house, he stays thoughtful but decides it might just be in his head. On TV, they report that a second-degree martial artist got taken out by his partner after a robbery went south. Yuan is watching and says it's probably better for him not to go to school right now, because if something happened to her, the world would be totally wrecked. He says she's just a piece of meat that's good for nothing. Annoyed, she chucks her snack package at Fang. With that, he shifts his gaze back to the TV. While it shows they got a clear image thanks to an internet user, the protagonist realizes the weapon used is the same dagger his neighbor had. Still annoyed, his sister plops down on the couch while he studies the image. Again, he notices the dagger that the thief used to stab his partner. The night, in the middle of a dimly lit street. Someone's waving a dagger, ready to stab. Then we see the dude gearing up to attack Fang, who looks totally freaked out by the assassin coming his way. Quickly, the man's dagger gets closer while Fang just stands there, frozen. A whole lot of blood starts spreading everywhere. With that, the protagonist jolts awake, saying he remembered something. Thinking back to what he saw in the newspaper earlier, he realizes this is the same knife his neighbor dropped on the floor, digging through his memories for that exact moment. Imagining his neighbor grinning with the dagger in hand, he figures that must be the criminal who took out his partner. Remembering his dream, he says that was a lie, but the murderous vibe he felt earlier was real. He thinks one of the suspects is an artist at the peak of the second degree, probably hiding above his room from the cops. Reaching the conclusion that it might be him, Fang gets super scared, wondering if he's the next target. The boy thinks maybe the criminal wants his cash or his gaming setup, but quickly realizes it's not that simple. While nervously clutching his blanket, Fang says it was just a dream, but it could totally become real, so he needs to prep for it. Still lost in thought in his bed, he glances at his arm. Determined, he says he has to act fast, making sure that guy doesn't become a threat to him or his fam. Again, the sun rises, bringing light to the neighborhood, making people start moving through the streets again. The journalist mentioned that some internet users were against stopping the city just to catch a martial artist. In apartment 201, where they kept saying a second-degree artist could easily take down a soldier, so the police need to catch him ASAP. Suddenly, the man turns off the radio, tossing it into a box filled with clothes stained with blood and the dagger. While trying to get rid of the evidence, the man thinks he needs to stay hidden until everyone forgets about this mess. Out of nowhere, someone starts knocking on his door, leaving him confused. The man stares at the door, which keeps banging. He gets a bit jittery, imagining he might have been found out. Even nervous, he unlocks the door. With a fake smile, he opens it, claiming to be the new resident and asking how he can help. But he gets confused when he sees no one. While the protagonist is right behind the door he just opened. The man starts checking the stairs, trying to figure out who's knocking while Fang slips into his apartment. Back in his apartment, he realizes Fang is chilling inside while the nervous dude asks how the boy got in there. As the protagonist sets some eggs and drinks on the man's table, he thinks he needs to stay chill and act normal. A bit on edge, he says the boy must have knocked on the wrong door since this isn't his room. While putting straws in the drinks, Fang says he's in the right spot and wants to watch the football championship, but his TV is busted. He says he came to his uncle's place to watch on his TV and brought snacks and drinks for them to share. The boy offers a drink to the criminal, saying they'll eat and watch together. While the man sits there with the drink in hand, saying nothing, the protagonist focuses on the TV. As the game plays, the man starts squeezing the cup with the drink. The criminal, annoyed, says he's going along with everything but needs to do something since the boy could be a secret agent from the detective agency. But out of nowhere, Fang starts chatting about the game with the uncle, making the criminal wonder if he's just a really dumb and friendly kid. As the man glares at the boy, he finally takes the drink, thinking about how to get him to leave without causing more chaos. With that, he asks the boy if he doesn't need to go to school, to which Fang excitedly replies that there's no school on the weekend. The man, a bit anxious, asks if the boy's parents aren't worried about him, but at that moment, the protagonist just lowers his head, staying quiet. With a sad look, he asks if the uncle wants him to leave. The thug, feeling a bit awkward, says he's just worried about him, to which the boy, with a tearful voice, replies that everything's fine and that he understands. He then starts to tear up, saying he's just a kid who wanted to be friends with his new neighbor, but it seems he only annoys people. Fang begins to apologize to the uncle, saying it's all his fault, while the thief stands there, totally clueless, trembling like a leaf. Already getting ready to open the curtains, he says that as an apology, he'll clean the uncle's room and just needs a second to do that. But the man quickly bolts and slams the curtains shut again. A bit confused, he asks the thug what's going on. The man, trying to come up with an excuse, says he's sensitive to UV rays. Preparing his cleaning tools, he says that in that case, he should clean the uncle's room. The thief steps in front of the door to his room, saying he'll handle it himself later. Sighing, the boy says they're both guys and that he gets it. Even more nervous, the man asks if Fang shouldn't just go home and grab some lunch while mentally losing it, telling the kid to scram. Looking at the TV again, he agrees with the man that he should go grab some food. Fang starts to leave, saying he'll come back to visit him, while the man says he can barely wait for that moment. Mentally, he feels relieved that the kid is finally gone. Suddenly, the protagonist trips over the box. He falls to the ground, knocking the box over too. With that, the man looks at the scene with a mix of shock and nervousness. Fang puts his hand on his head in pain while staring at the box. Seeing the blood-stained clothes and the knife, he asks the uncle what those things are. The thief, without saying a word, starts to creep closer. Fang gets on high alert when he sees this. Looking back, he realizes the man is about to kick him. With the force of the kick, he's sent crashing against the front door. The man then crouches down and grabs the dagger, already unrolling the cloth that covered his blade. Suddenly, the protagonist starts to cough a ton, but the man just ignores it, moving toward the boy with the blade at his neck. With a maniacal look, the thug starts to grin. As a strong, murderous vibe radiates from the man, he presses the dagger against his neck. Nervously, the protagonist begins to plead with the uncle to stop and that he won't spill a word to anyone. The thug says he won't be able to say anything since he'll be dead. He raises his blade, getting ready to stab him. Fang looks irritated at the situation and starts to wonder what he should do since he doesn't want to go out like this. Unexpectedly, the man starts to tremble and can't attack him while the protagonist looks at him with annoyance. The man begins to have hallucinations, questioning if he was drugged. He remembers the moment when the boy handed him the drink, and he took it without even thinking. Seizing the moment, Fang quickly strikes his hand, making the blade fly away. The blade gets lodged in one of the walls. The boy then bolts, trying to escape from the man. He grabs a piece of wood to defend himself. With that, he swings with all his might at the man's head, knocking him to the ground. While catching his breath after the attack, Fang figures the drug must have just kicked in. Looking at the piece of wood, the protagonist says it was his best call to have grabbed it. Suddenly, still super shaky, the man starts to get up, surprising the boy. As the thug rises angrily, the protagonist is confused, asking how he's not out cold. The assassin clenches his fists and throws a hook. He lands the blow in Fang's stomach, leaving him totally stunned. He spits blood from the force of the impact, while looking fearfully at his enemy. The protagonist pushes the man back while trying to create some distance. He breathes heavily while looking irritated and scared, thinking to himself that he's been reborn with the ability to use the system, and that he can't blow this chance by dying here while gripping the piece of wood even tighter. Enraged, he starts to attack his opponent multiple times. Drugged and taking hits, the man stumbles back while blood spills from his mouth. The man slams his back hard against the door. He ends up fainting from the force of the impact while various bruises scatter across his face. As he recovers from the incident, he says he really underestimated him and that if the killer hadn't taken the drug, he wouldn't be alive now. A little later, as the sun sets, Fang was counting the cash that the thief stole while wondering why the wealth hasn't increased. The man wakes up tied to a chair, staring at the boy, saying that apparently the system doesn't think the cash is his. The criminal realizes he's got a ton of blood and chi, wondering if the detective agency is behind this kid. The furious thief starts yelling, asking who he is while the protagonist stands up. The cocky boy says he's Detective X, and catching criminals like him is totally his vibe, but the annoyed bandit retorts that he clearly isn't a detective. Lifting the thief's backpack, he asks if this is all he's got. 200,000 and some jars of pills. The killer mentally grumbles, saying those pills were supposed to help him break through like a third-grade artist. And now they're in the hands of this clueless kid. The killer, eyeing the boy, calls out to him. Still tied up, he asks if the protagonist is down for a deal. Fang just stares at the thief, waiting for the pitch. He says if he gets freed, he can keep the 2 jars of pills and his 200,000. The thief keeps going, saying there's also a jar of body-strengthening pills and one of second-grade meds. With all that, their market value is over 5 million. Fang's mind is blown, saying that apparently even some jars can be worth a fortune. Still jittery, the bandit asks if it's not a solid offer. The man adds that this will help him a ton with the exam he's taking now and for future leveling up. The protagonist is holding a bright green pill in his hand. The man explains that this pill is way more useful after some battles than regular chi and blood meds. He says martial artists are just regular folks who push the limits of their bodies, toughening their bones and protecting their weak spots. With a smug grin, the thief looks at him, asking if he's thought it through. While straining his hands, trying to break free, he says if he lets him go, the protagonist will have all this within reach. Trying to sweet-talk the boy, he says the police will snatch all this from him and it doesn't end well if he dies, saying if Fang takes him out, the evidence he left behind could stall the police for a month and 10 days, but they'll still find Fang. He says the protagonist is young today and has a bright future with these pills in hand. The bandit insists it's not worth dying together while thinking that the drug was indeed strong and he needs more time to regain his strength. The protagonist is lost in thought. If he takes him out, the police will find out, and if he lets him go, he might come back for revenge. Looking at the killer, he thinks that being a second-grade artist, this guy is super dangerous and that he should let the police handle it. But still, that doesn't change the fact that the pills are worth millions. So the certainty is that the police will confiscate all the pills. And for him to become a martial artist, his chi and blood need to be over 150. He says even with the system, he needs the cash to become a martial artist, and with 5 million, he could stack up on chi and blood. Even if he doesn't trade these pills, they'd be enough to level up. He wonders if he should hit up Jin Yang for help. But remembering Senior Fang's coldness, he questions if he wouldn't just take him out to keep the pills. As he thinks about how to deal with the man in front of him, the killer says it's a simple question and that he's got the upper hand anyway. He starts crouching down, saying there's a fierce tiger in front of him and a hungry wolf right behind. Grabbing a piece of wood, the boy thinks he just has to hope he doesn't run into that wolf. He grips his makeshift weapon tight. The man then starts shouting, asking what he's planning. Fang stretches his arm, saying he was wondering if the man would let him go if he accepted his offer. The nervous man starts saying his name is Huang Bin and that he's a man of his word. He manages to break free at the last second. The killer gets ready to throw a punch, saying the boy's time is up. But surprisingly, the protagonist just hits him in the back of the neck. In the mountains of Kangshan City, a man turns on a flashlight in the darkness. He walks through the forest searching for something. That was Jin Yang. As he wipes his face, he says he's searched everywhere and can't find that rat. Suddenly, his phone rings in the silence. He answers and realizes it's Fang, asking if he can chat now. Still strolling through the forest, he asks if something went down and why he's calling at this hour. The protagonist asks if the senior is still in town and mentions he found the wanted criminal and accidentally gave him a little love tap. Jin Yang is shocked by this while the boy tells him he's the only martial artist he knows, which is why he's calling for backup. A little later, at the building where he crashes, there was apartment 201. In front of the door, Jin Yang says it's super unlikely a second-degree martial artist would get caught by a student. He still needs to watch his back when facing him. Opening the door fast, Fang tells his senior to come in. As he steps inside, he says he wasn't far and helping isn't a hassle, but if it's a big deal, he might be out of his league. Suddenly, he's hit with a shock at what he sees. In front of him was Huang Bin tied to a chair. The protagonist walks up to the thief while telling his senior that he's out cold. With a grin, he asks Jin Yang if taking him to the cops would even matter. Somewhat puzzled, the top student asks what Fang is scheming. Opening his backpack, he says he'll cut to the chase and mentions he found some seriously valuable stuff with the thief. With a cheeky look, waving some cash and pills, he says he'd like to keep them. With a smirk, Jin Yang asks if he's really down to keep them. The martial artist asks the protagonist if he knows why this dude's a criminal and says he's taken out several martial artists. With a grin, he says that's why he called Jin Yang so they can keep everything to themselves, leaving the boy scratching his head. Sighing, he says the kid's sharp and has a long road ahead. Jin Yang tells Fang he can't use second-degree pills, so he'll swap them for first-degree ones and toss in an extra million. The university student says he'll easily absorb these pills since he's almost breaking through, and their value is off the charts. Stashing one of the pills, he tells Fang that once he breaks through, collecting resources will be a breeze, and if he needs help again, he can hit him up anytime. He says he's said all he wanted, and now the kid doesn't need to stress about Huang Bin anymore since he'll handle it all. With a fake smile, Fang says it's all good, and that he'll take everything his brother doesn't need from the backpack. He says everything's going according to plan, and that with these items, he'll boost his wealth factor, making university a walk in the park. He starts to wonder if these items should be worth 3,500,000, but are only showing 2,400,000. He figures the system doesn't care about market value but the real deal. A bit lost in thought, he realizes he forgot to tell his brother Jin Yang something. He turns to the martial artist and asks what would happen if the cops wanted to hear Huang Bin's confession. While covering the thief's body with his own, he says the thief won't get a chance to spill. With a creepy look, he says that since the dude's been a wanted criminal for ages, he's toast anyway. Suddenly a cell phone rings on a table. The notification on the phone says Jin Yang just transferred 1 million to his account. With that, in his system, the wealth tab jumps to 3,400,000. But suddenly the system starts to glitch out, breaking and glowing gold, transforming into a new version. Looking at this new version, he realizes the values and units are totally different now. Thoughtful, he concludes that in the old version, he could only increase by 0.1, which was about 10 units of chi and blood costing 10,000 from the system. But now the values seem way more precise. He wonders if he can now use 1,000 coins to boost his chi and blood while giving the order to the system. With that, 1,000 coins are deducted from his account, boosting his chi and blood by 1. He realizes that with this system, unless he's rolling in cash, he won't be leveling up fast. Jin Yang sends a message to Fang asking if he got the money and mentions he sent something extra since he'll need it. He thanks the senior, who says he admires few people in his life, and he's one of them. The protagonist feels a bit shy from his senior's words. Interrupting his thoughts, his sister jumps on his back, telling him to get up since she's starving. While he's clutching his back in pain, Fang tells her to just eat alone. With a grin, his little sister says, since she's got his cash, she should spend hers and adds that she can't leave her bro hanging at home. He starts pinching her cheeks, saying he totally heard what she whispered while Yuan's busy apologizing. Out of nowhere, the little girl hands him a package. He's shocked as his sister says it's from Jin Yang. Trying to cool her cheeks, she mentions that name rings a bell. Yuan starts sweating bullets while keeping quiet. With wide eyes, she asks if this is the Jin Yang from the martial arts university, and her brother just grumbles. She starts begging him to get an autograph from the martial artist. He suspiciously asks if she's part of his fan club. His sister, while cursing, says he'll never get how awesome Jin Yang is. He just says he doesn't want to hear anything like that from someone as goofy as her. Then we hear that 3 out of 5 girls are into Jin Yang, and the other 2 are obsessed. She says their school has 5,000 students, and the girl-to-guy ratio is 2 to 3. A signed piece costs $10. That's 3,000 girls, plus another 500 fanboys. In her mind, after crunching the numbers, it's about 10 million. Her brother, stunned, asks if that's why she's into him. With a smug grin, she says she'll keep 70% and he can have 30%, making their piggy banks explode with cash. Suddenly, she realizes her brother's MIA and keeps searching for him, asking if the deal would be better at 60-40. Meanwhile, across town, Fang strolls down the street, wondering what Jin Yang wants from him, and he doesn't even reply to his message. Still confused, he starts to open the package. He's blown away by what's inside. It's a bunch of books on martial arts techniques. He remembers reading something about this at a cyber cafe, that to level up as a martial artist, 2 things are key. One is having a high level of chi and blood. The second is having strong bones from special meds and techniques. He admits he was worried about not finding any techniques and didn't expect Jin Yang to send him this. A bit nervous, he admits his yard is tiny and he won't be able to train there. Suddenly a dude pops up in front of him, saying a subsidized area is up for grabs if he buys now. The guy says Guanhu Yuan has solid public transport and killer accommodations, plus the residences are top-notch. He mentions it's a duplex with 230 square meters costing 860 grand. Fang says the place is nice but pricey. The seller thinks he looks like a student and asks if he wants something cheaper. With total confidence, the protagonist digs into his pocket, saying there's no need, leaving the realtor stunned. With his card in hand, he asks if there's any offer or discount he could snag. The guy hands him the key, saying he made the best choice and that the house comes with free stuff like internet and a TV plan. The realtor shows Fang a contract saying if he signs now, he'll get a 95% discount on the purchase and the company will cover his residential fees. He starts saying the residence is perfect for the kid and that he knew from the moment he saw him that he'd be someone with a bright future. Fang asks when he can move in. The guy replies that the house is his now and he can move in anytime. As he leaves, Fang wonders how he'll break the news to his parents about the house and where he got all this cash, deciding to keep it all under wraps for now. As he pushes through a crowd, he hears the TV covering the battle between Grandmaster Ma and Tai Mu, catching his attention. On the TV, the journalist says he's over 5 kilometers away from the fight and can still feel the pressure of the hits. As a fire breaks out in the forest, the journalist states that a once lush forest is turning into barren land. You can see strikes flying amidst the mountains. Suddenly, the journalist announces that Tai Mu's Wrath of Thunderstrike caused a massive landslide. The Grandmaster hit back at his enemy with a move called the Gallops of 10,000 Horses. Chunks of earth went flying straight at the journalist. Panicking, he told his cameraman to watch out for the rocks. In a split second, both the cameraman and the journalist got nailed by those fragments, and the TV broadcast went dark. While Fang stood there, totally stunned by the chaos, people around him started saying the masters were super strong, even though they weren't really going all out. He couldn't believe it. The Grandmaster's move was giving off serious RPG vibes, like a character with the power of a nuke. The journalist was all apologetic, saying he never thought they'd get caught up in the action from so far away, and if he wasn't a third-rate journalist, he'd be toast. At that moment, Fang locked eyes on the TV, declaring that one day he'd reach Grandmaster status. Later, over at a spot called Walking Street, a woman was all about this gorgeous sofa and wanted to buy it. The seller said it was going for just $79,000. The dude with her said he'd think about it while she got mad next to him. She flopped on the ground, asking if he was lying when he said he loved her, while the guy, totally lost, told the seller he'd buy it. The seller, looking a bit shaky, told him it was gone since that young guy had snatched it up. Zooming in on the cashier, it was Fang, who looked surprised to be caught staring. He waved his card like, "Hey, what's up?" By evening, back at his place at Inside, the little girl was saying she'd have to teach her brother a lesson when she got home, while their mom said Fang was prepping for the exam. He was in his apartment grinding with the techniques Jin Yang had taught him. He kept doing the drills while mentally repeating, chest out, back straight, head forward. The boy thought about how the human body is just flesh, meridians, organs, and bones. And as martial artists, they gotta make sure all parts are working together. If you want to toughen up those bones, you gotta use a technique called the way of strengthening. It's all about compressing the blood, boosting your resistance while letting your bones soak up chi and blood. He asked the senior if he could amp up his chi and blood, along with his bone strength, until he broke through. Jin Yang nodded, saying if he used the technique right, it'd be way more effective. He told the protagonist that if he wanted to train with pile work, he'd need to pick one that leads to the next level. The senior explained that if he worked on his upper body, he'd be more stable. If he focused on his lower body, he'd be faster and more balanced. While jotting down notes, Fang asked what exercise he should do for his lower body. Jin Yang said it'd be the horse step pile work. He warned that it's super risky. If he gets hurt, his legs could be messed up for life, and Fang might never walk again. The protagonist, grinning, said that was no biggie. The main thing is, he'd be able to dodge a stronger opponent. A bit awkwardly, the senior called out Fang's name, saying he had something to share while looking serious. He said the boy's chi and blood were solid, and he'd pass the test anyway. But by using the way of hardening and doing pile work, his max capacity would go up, but his current capacity would drop. Just then, lightning started sparking from Fang's leg. Seriously, Jin Yang warned him that if his brain arteries got messed up, he could kiss the exam goodbye. The boy insisted he should forget about missing the exam since he was about to break through and boost his strength. Suddenly, he opened his eyes with determination, saying this was perfect. He dropped to the ground, panting, claiming he trained right, and just as Jin Yang said, his chi and blood levels plummeted. Still gasping for air, he looked up. Calling on the system again, he ordered it to boost his chi and blood levels along with his psychic energy. Out of nowhere, his chi and blood, plus his psychic energy, shot up like crazy. He stood up, shocked, asking if even his limits had been raised. Fang realized he couldn't wait any longer to level up his stats, and with the system and training, he'd catch up to his brother Jin Yang. With that, it's clear everyone's grinding to get their bodies ready, competing in the race, in weightlifting, eating a ton to bulk up. Now there were only 3 days left until the physical exam. Someone asks Lu Ting and Rui Yang if there are any new martial artists this time. While fidgeting with his hands, the guy says that in the last decade, Rui Yang hasn't seen a single new martial artist. This was the vice captain of the Nanjing patrol team, who mentioned they've already dropped mad cash on martial arts schools, all for nothing. He says if it weren't for Jin Yang's epic performance at the university last year, the education ministry and Rui Yang would have been toast. The dude states that if there aren't at least 100 students with chi and blood levels over 120, or at least one student who's close to maxing out, Mr. Jin's position, right in front of him, could be in serious jeopardy. On exam day with a bunch of chartered buses dropping off students, Fang, along with Yang Jian, was striding toward the exam room. A couple was bummed out that last year the score needed was 112, and now it's gone up, but they only hit 110. Students from all over were gathered in front of the exam venue. Ji Hao said they just need to remember the explosive skill Master Shui taught, and they'll be golden. Yang Jian asks Fang how much chi and blood he's packing, and he shrugs, saying he's not sure. Suddenly someone calls out to them, catching the protagonist off guard. The guy asks if he's Fang Ping. He nods and asks if there's a problem, but then Ji Hao jumps in, shocked, asking if that's not the vice director of the education department, Tan. He waves to everyone, saying he needs to chat with the protagonist and asks if he can snag a moment. In another spot, Fang asks if it's so crucial that he called him alone and couldn't just spill the tea. A bit taken aback, the guy says since that's the case, he'll just lay it out. He tells the boy that in Rui Yang, there are 5 counties, 3 districts, and 1 city total, with Yancheng being one of the counties. Zhenping mentions they're competing in the physical exam with 2 different counties this time and asks Fang if his chi and blood are above 120. The protagonist tells the vice director he'll only find out later, wondering why he's so curious about him. The vice director says he talked to Jin Yang, and anyone who catches his eye can't be just average. The boy tells the man he doesn't really get what he wants from him. Zhenping tells Fang he hopes he breaks through before the exam and unleashes his chi and blood. With those words, Fang feels a bit on edge. The man then says, as he should know, emotions can seriously mess with blood, and even if everyone else is weaker, test results can still vary. He asks if the people around him are strong and if he's feeling shaky about his self-confidence. The protagonist says he gets it. Any chi or blood that leaks before the test could totally mess with the results. The vice director then says he can chill after the exam, and the market will hook him up with pills and elixirs worth a fortune. Zhenping then says a martial artist thrives on boldness. Being soft on the enemy isn't the vibe of a true martial artist. Mentally, he agrees, knowing martial artists gotta fight. Fang says he's down while shaking the vice director's hand. Suddenly, the vice director looks surprised and a bit nervous. He starts sizing up the protagonist, realizing he's packing way more than 130 points. Returning to his crew who are walking together, suddenly, a boy crashes into one of his classmates. While she moans about the pain and her friends rush to help, the boy says people like that shouldn't even dream of being martial artists. Zhu Hao grabs the boy by the collar. Then they start hearing someone shout for everyone to clear out fast. The boy stays convinced, saying that apparently the dude has no clue they're all just a bunch of noobs. The protagonist's friend keeps yelling that the boy did it on purpose. Quickly, someone approaches them, grabbing their attention. It was Fang, who puts a hand on his friend's shoulder while saying that a high school student without any clout will hardly land a good spot. As red rays shot out from his body and students squirmed in pain behind him, the protagonist declared he'd teach him how to act in society. The kid on his knees gasps, saying he can't breathe. The vice principal, witnessing the chaos, wonders how Jin Yang managed to raise this kid. Out of nowhere, a dude strolls up to the vice principal, asking if that kid was his. Inside the exam center, competitors were chatting, trying to figure out whose pressure was making them feel like they were suffocating. They kept talking, saying they heard it might be from a top-tier student from Yang City. A hand reaches out to him while Fang wonders how these kids are supposed to feel scared. Suddenly, this hand grabs his arm and yanks him. Out of nowhere, without anyone noticing, he slips through a door with Fang. It was the vice principal, panting after dragging the protagonist, asking what he wanted. Zhenping hands him a first-grade chi and blood pill, saying it'll help him hit the max limit of a near martial artist. He looks at the vice principal, a bit puzzled. Shoving Zhenping's hand away, the protagonist says he can't accept that request. He tells the principal that the side effects of the pill are way too intense for him to handle before becoming a martial artist. It could mess him up or even kill him. The vice principal insists his foundation is solid, and if he takes the pill, he'll hit the highest limit of a near martial artist during the body exam. Fang still says no, claiming the risk is too high. The vice principal then drops the bomb that this was a request from the head of the education department. Feeling a bit freaked out, he tries to act tough, saying it wouldn't be smart to turn down a request from a third-degree martial artist. Annoyed, he mentions that his brother Jin Yang just hit third degree too, and asks if Zhenping wants to call him for backup. At that moment, the man looks a bit lost but also nervous. Worried about what might go down, he sighs in frustration. The vice principal apologizes for being pushy, saying it's just the situation, and asks the student to lay out his terms so they can negotiate. With that, Fang grins, knowing he's got the upper hand. Looking at the man, he asks for 2 chi and blood pills and 2 million in cash, risking it all with that request. The vice principal figures that no matter how wild the kid's demands are, the head of the department will probably go for it. So he agrees to the deal, saying he's representing Chief Jin. As he walks out, the protagonist says he can tell the head of the department he wants 3 chi and blood pills and that the vice principal can keep 1. With that, Jinping is blown away by the kid's cleverness, wondering if he's really just a high school student. Watching Fang leave, the vice principal admits he's way too much for him to handle. In the exam room, some students were being tested while the examiner jotted everything down. The table showed that students had an average of 100 in chi and blood, with the highest hitting 115. Nervously chewing his nails, the head of the department wondered if there really wasn't anyone above 120 points yet. Then, he accidentally bumps into the report about the protagonist. The head of the department orders his staff to switch the CCTV to Fang ASAP. The protagonist was inside a capsule staring at the camera recording him. The kid admits he never thought there'd be a surveillance camera in such a tiny testing capsule. As he digs into his pocket for one of the pills, he figures he should show off his potential. He says he's got the system, so he doesn't need pills, but to throw them off, he'll use one of chi and blood. With that, he quickly pops a red pill. After swallowing it, he realizes the feeling is way different from when he used the system, as if the pill was already refined and didn't need to be purified. But suddenly, he starts screaming as rays blast out from his body. His score begins to climb, hitting 103, and even faster than it started, it shoots up to 119. Nervously, the secretary chief starts saying that if Fang doesn't hit the max limit of an almost martial artist, even with his help, he'll never be forgiven while anxiously watching the screen. Out of nowhere, the protagonist's score hits 149, causing the secretary chief to burst into maniacal laughter, proud of the achievement. In the room where the results would be revealed, the examiner informs the students of the minimum required chi and blood value this year. With a bit of regret, he drops the news that it's going to be 115. All the competitors start freaking out, saying this wasn't the deal last year, which is what they based their hustle on. The dude tells the students to chill. There are other ways to pass, but now he's got to announce the names of those who made the cut. He kicks off the name-calling while Ji Hao nudges Fang, asking if he's not sweating bullets since this year it's 115 points. Looking at his buddy, he asks if 115 is a big deal. A bit annoyed, the boy says that's obvious and asks what his chi and blood level is. Awkwardly, he admits it's probably around 149. His friend cracks up, saying even in a moment like this, he can keep it cool and throw in some jokes. The man keeps rolling through the names of those who passed. He shouts out Yang Jian, who snagged 116 points. Zhi Hao made it with 120 points. Then he calls out the protagonist's name, starting to shake a little. Still trembling, the man tells everyone to give it up for Fang. With an insane score of 149, he crushes the physical exam in Rui Yang. He just stands there, beaming with happiness. Everyone starts buzzing about which class he's in and who he is to score 149 points. Ji Hao, totally blown away, asks how Fang pulled off such a high score. The man reassures the crowd, saying these are the ones who passed, but they shouldn't be bummed about missing out. While a bunch of students hang their heads, he says there will be other chances. Many are in tears as he thanks everyone for showing up. Suddenly, the protagonist spots a tear falling. It's one of his classmates lamenting that her parents drained their savings for her exam, and now she has no clue how to break the news. Feeling for her, he glances at the girl and thinks that the exam is super tough for some. The boy remembers he used the cash to boost his chi and blood, and regular folks wouldn't have enough dough, let alone access to the system. With that, he puts a hand on the girl's shoulder, calling her over. He comforts her, saying it must have been rough, but she shouldn't stress because she'll definitely pass next time. With a grin, Fang asks if she's down for fries and says he'll treat her to whatever she wants. Still sniffling, the girl calls out his name. His other friends jump in, trying to cheer her up, saying with her skills, passing next year will be a breeze. The girl starts crying even more because all her friends care about her. Jumping up excitedly, she shouts that they're going to eat. The protagonist feels stoked since he managed to lift her spirits. A little later, they're strolling down the street after grabbing some snacks. Out of nowhere, a guy walks up, asking if the martial arts exam isn't totally unfair. The dude starts ranting that those who don't pass are stuck living as lower class forever and asks if that's not messed up. Everyone, including Fang, stares at the guy, confused and a bit on edge. The boy with a tattoo on his face pipes up, saying that back in 2012, the world almost went down because of martial artists, but they fought for humanity. Looking at that guy, the protagonist wonders who he even is. The man keeps pushing, insisting the students join him. He reaches out, saying together they can fight against injustice. Fang, feeling the nerves, just stands there, staring at the guy. The protagonist whispers to his friends that this dude is sketchy and they should bounce. Quickly, everyone nods in agreement. With that, they just ignore the guy and turn their backs, heading back the way they came. Out of nowhere, the man grabs one of their arms. It was Zhang Nana, who looked at him in fear as he said they shouldn't run away and that he'd take them somewhere. She freaked out and started screaming, begging him to let her go. The tattooed guy said they shouldn't worry, but a true god must be good to those who are kind. Suddenly, the protagonist unleashed his chi and blood, commanding the man to let her go. The guy was hit with pure fear as he felt the pressure coming from the boy. He faced the man while releasing his chi and blood. Seizing the moment, the girl managed to break free. The man looked closely at the group of students. Fang started to wonder if this was some kind of cult and how they could be bold enough to try to recruit people in broad daylight. Zhihao urged the protagonist to just ignore the guy and bounce. Closing his eyes, he figured there was nothing he could do, since he had zero authority to handle this mess. They started walking again, and he spilled the tea about how his biggest worry was the physical test and the written exam. But the dude with the wild eyes and creepy grin just kept staring them down. Right where the physical exams were happening, the guards were on high alert while a huge welcome banner was hanging for the students. Inside, the physical exam was lit, with students racing against each other and throwing shot puts, which is basically just hurling heavy stuff. After the physical test, they'd head to a room for the written exam. Everyone was super tense and laser-focused on the test, even Fang. Once the exam wrapped up, the students celebrated by making paper airplanes and launching them into the sky. At the school exit, where all the exam drama went down, families were waiting to scoop up their kids. The protagonist squeezed through the crowd, trying to make his escape. Out of nowhere, someone in a van pointed him out to a buddy, saying, "That's the kid." It was the tattooed guy from earlier, telling a woman with the same ink that this was the student. The woman said those with high chi and blood are the future of martial artists, the elite squad of the world. Another dude with the same tattoo chimed in, saying these people need to be taken out. The woman cackled, saying they're sinners who can't be saved anymore. In the back of the van, a bunch of people were holding clubs, and someone said only they could cleanse the spirits of these sinners. With a wicked grin, the woman said she'd leave the rest to them, but the boy was all hers. Suddenly, the cult members jumped out of the car, causing chaos in the crowd, attacking students with bats, stomping on the heads of those already down, and even yanking the hair of the girls. Fang Ping noticed the madness and started plotting a way around it, until a woman appeared out of nowhere. She claimed our protagonist had to sacrifice his soul to the true god. He quickly sensed a strike coming from behind. Luckily, our protagonist had the reflexes to block just in time. He figured it was a martial artist who had beefed up her upper body. Her eyes were filled with a deadly intent. Our protagonist realized she had the same tattoo as the guy from before. While fighting, Fang starts thinking that the cultists might be out for revenge. He tries to land a kick, but the woman blocks it effortlessly. Her strength is so insane that Fang ends up hurting his leg just from hitting her. She grabs him by the collar and slams him to the ground, getting ready to throw a punch that would definitely end him. Just as she's about to strike, Fang nails her on the ankle, making her wobble. This causes her to miss the hit that would have been game over. Fang realizes the riot's goal is to take him out and reflects on how tough this opponent is. He's almost ready to accept his fate when the next punch from the leader comes flying in, ready to unleash her divine mercy. But out of nowhere, she gets clocked by a punch that sends her flying. Fang can't believe it. A single punch took her down. After the hit, the cultist crashes into the wall, while the one who threw the punch stands tall, radiating a serious vibe. The guy says he never thought the cultists would pull such a wild stunt at the testing center, but Fang's not really processing it and just stares at the fighter with a serious look. Seeing this, the guy asks if Fang is alright. The cult leader is down for good, and her blood is pooling on the ground. Fang's still on the floor, both impressed and kinda grossed out by what just happened. The guy next to him reassures him, saying anyone would feel sick seeing this for the first time, but Fang cuts him off, asking who he is. He introduces himself as a detective, but Fang keeps firing questions, wanting to know who those attackers were. However, he gets annoyed when he hears they were just a bunch of crazies. Fang is seriously mad about how this whole massacre went down. After all, those people were trying to wipe everyone out. The detective tries to chill things out, saying the city's beefed up security to stop more attacks. Tan Zhenping rushes over to check on Fang. He starts freaking out and bombards Fang with questions. When he hears Fang Ping's name, Detective Zhang realizes he's talking to the school's top genius. Mr. Tan notices things are off and that detectives are all over the city. Soon, Zhang confirms that the situation is pretty dire. Fang is shocked to learn this isn't the first time students have been targeted by these crazies who hate martial artists. After all, they can't stand fighters. The cultists picked the students as targets since they haven't learned real combat skills yet. But Zhang never thought they'd cause chaos in broad daylight with a martial artist around. Mr. Tan is stunned that a crazy group teamed up with a martial artist, and the detective confirms, saying the woman who attacked Fang was part of the cult. Soon, Mr. Tan thanks the deputy chief detective for saving his prodigy, but the boy looks unhappy about being attacked by the only martial artist in the group. He quickly realizes he's weak and figures if this keeps up, his dreams of becoming a grandmaster are toast. Another detective comes over and says the cultists have been taken care of. Plus, some students are seriously hurt and won't be able to pursue martial arts anymore. Tan Zhenping suggests Detective Zhang handle the cult situation while the education department looks after the students. He hands Fang a handkerchief, worried about his well-being. After all, explaining to Wang Jinyang if something happened to him would be a nightmare. Meanwhile, Fang Ping decides to ask Uncle Tan to teach him some combat moves. Tan tells him that learning battle techniques isn't as effective and he'll get it better once he becomes a martial artist. Fang is totally taken aback by that. After all his enemies didn't know about battle techniques. Then Tan goes on to say that some martial artists skip battle techniques altogether. They'd rather focus on toughening up their bones and boosting their vitality. Plus, the battle tactics from back in the day aren't really used anymore. Those who focus on vitality usually handle admin stuff while the criminal investigation team deals with the chaos. As the old man and the boy head off to change uniforms, Fang Ping thinks about how some martial artists are all hype, no strength. On the way home, the boy tries to call the old man Wang, but the number's totally dead. Fang Ping wanted to hit him up about some martial arts stuff. Then, out of nowhere, our main dude gets a notification that 2 million yuan just dropped into his account. But then he remembers Mr. Tan and Chief Jin told him about this cash flow. The old man says he crushed the practical assessment and his reward got upgraded. He's hyped about his results and tells him to always aim higher, so they decide to do something special to celebrate. Of course, our main dude goes in for the high five. That totally wraps up all the cult drama. Now our protagonist feels pumped to keep pushing forward. We switch to the scene where the fam is throwing a party for his first place win in the vitality test. Suddenly, they're caught off guard by a dude who shows up instead of our protagonist. But then our hero pops up behind the old man, introducing himself to his family. Naturally, everyone's stoked to see he's doing great. Fang Ping introduces him as the deputy chief of the education department of Sun City. His little sister can't hide her awe, fangirling over how he earned the trust of someone so important. Soon the old man says sorry for dropping in unannounced. He points out how tough it must have been for Fang Ping's fam to support him all this time. So the deputy chief offers a security job with a sweet salary. The dad's jaw drops at the monthly paycheck. And the little girl is buzzing about the offer. Finally, her dad won't have to grind so hard. Plus, our protagonist is all about encouraging him to take the chance. Then the dad decides to go for it and accepts the job. The fam invites the old man to dinner, but he says he's got to handle other stuff. Our protagonist walks him to the exit while his fam asks the deputy chief to swing by more often. Suddenly, Fang Ping's whole vibe shifts, asking if his parents are free tomorrow. They quickly say yes, but wonder why he flipped his mood so fast. Lucky for them, he was just messing around and invites the fam to check out the house he claims he got from the education department. Of course, everyone's shocked about the new digs. Fang's fam can't believe the house is 2 stories tall. They look like they can't wrap their heads around the education department dropping so much cash just for him. But our protagonist's dad raises an eyebrow, questioning if this house is really a gift from the department. Hearing that, the boy thinks about spilling the truth to his parents. But he realizes they've already brushed off their doubts and accepted the house. He asks them to keep the gift on the down low, and then they keep exploring the place. On TV, the news breaks about an 8-magnitude earthquake that wrecked a bunch of homes. Our protagonist looks shook by the news, knowing many must have been hurt in this disaster. But to his surprise, it turns out there were only 73 injuries, and that low number is somehow linked to martial arts. Leading the rescue is someone called the Grand Master. This makes our protagonist think that martial artists aren't as useless as old Tan claimed. Either way, he's already stepped into this huge world, so all Fang Ping can do is keep leveling up. Then, out of nowhere, Wang Jinyang finally returns the calls. He explains he didn't call earlier because he was busy on a super important mission, and he's getting props for hitting 149 in vitality thanks to our protagonist's help. But Wang wants Fang Ping to cut to the chase. So the boy says he's finished the elementary stage of bone forging, and his vitality is over the 150 mark. Hearing this, Wang wonders if our protagonist is ready to dive into the martial arts scene. But Fang isn't ready to jump into the martial artist life just yet. After saying that, he feels kinda awkward for hinting that his older brother should teach him battle tactics. He seems a bit let down to hear it's not time for him to learn those skills. After all, just leveling up his vitality is what's gonna help him down the line. Wang explains that battle techniques wouldn't really do much for our protagonist right now, so he hits up Fang Ping to forge his bones for the second time, aiming for that long-term glow-up. The boy, totally caught off guard, can't believe it. Wang Jinyang asks if our main dude's forging speed has slowed down over time, and he's all, yeah, for sure. Given the situation, Wang suggests Fang Ping grab some strengthening liquid and take a bath in it to boost his bone forging speed. Naturally, our protagonist is shook by this news, since he's never heard of it before. Jinyang says it makes sense. Usually only those whose vitality and strength are maxed out would use this stuff, and that's why this magic potion isn't found in Sun City. But guess what? His older bro plans to snag 3 bottles at his university. Too bad those 3 bottles cost a whopping 500,000 yuan, and Fang Ping's gotta transfer the cash since Wang isn't about to drop all that dough. Our protagonist even tries to haggle, but his brother just hangs up the phone. No regrets. Of course, he's pretty rattled by how pricey everything is in the martial arts world. In the days that follow, Fang Ping grinds hard, pushing his endurance to the limit. He also dives deep into martial arts studies. Plus, he runs marathons to boost his stamina. And after all that, our protagonist still makes time to cultivate his powers, getting closer to finishing the bone forging, releasing some serious energy in the process. A month rolls by, and we catch our protagonist soaking in the strengthening liquid. Turns out, his vitality level shot up from 150 to 170 in just a month. Also, the system valued those 3 vials at 600,000, so Fang Ping scored the extra cash. All these wins made our protagonist stronger and richer. He's laughing, realizing that selling pills is a solid way to stack some cash. Meanwhile, his little sister is outside the bathroom, yelling for him to hurry up since he's been in there for over an hour. After the bath, the fam gathers to check out the test results, and everyone's buzzing with excitement. His sister takes charge of the mouse and logs onto the website to finally see the results everyone's been waiting for. Fang Ping's score blows everyone away with 85 points in specialized studies and 98 in the practical assessment. He's even got a shot at the top universities. His parents are all emotional, and his sister hugs him tight, congratulating him on his epic performance. Not long after the results drop, Fang Ping's family starts getting congratulatory calls and even autograph requests from fans of the prodigy. Naturally, our protagonist feels super awkward with all this attention. Then, out of nowhere, he gets a message from Wang Jinyang wanting to meet up. A bit later, we see our protagonist chilling at the Sun City Sports Stadium. Wang rolls up to say hi. Fang responds with a friendly grin. We notice Jinyang has this adorable little girl with him, but she's staring at Fang Ping with these big, curious eyes. Wang spills that this cutie is his teacher's daughter. Our protagonist thinks it's a bit weird as he tries to say hi to her, but she just hides behind her tutor. For real, his sister is way cuter than this shy girl who didn't even say hello. Jinyang tells the girl to go play while he chats with our protagonist. Fang Ping seizes the moment to roast Wang, calling him a babysitter. Wang looks pretty annoyed by the joke, but Fang doesn't get what's up, until he's suddenly hit with a punch and invited to train their fighting skills. But our protagonist passes, knowing he'd get wrecked training with a rank 3 martial artist. His new training buddy keeps insisting while throwing punches, and after taking a hit, Fang Ping gets sent flying. Jinyang is checking if our protagonist has managed to develop a solid stance after a whole month of training. Fang Ping even tries to butter up his brother, saying there's no need to hit him so hard. But Jinyang isn't having it and keeps attacking. Luckily, our protagonist dodges a kick that would have hurt a lot. While dodging, Fang Ping wonders how strong a level 3 martial artist really is. But he doesn't even have time to think before he has to dodge again. Soon, Jinyang gives him props for his quick reflexes. Fang Ping shoots back, saying he only got this strong thanks to his master's guidance. Jinyang fires back that Fang Ping only reached this level because of his own hustle, saying there's no need to be overly humble. Wang Jinyang thought this prodigy was just another regular dude when he rolled back into school in April. But after the whole Huangbin situation, he started seeing our main guy as someone with serious potential. Still, our hero is way too busy dodging punches to even hear that. He even throws some shade at his opponent, saying at this rate, his ego's gonna blow up. But pride comes before a fall, and Fang Ping gets caught off guard, with his arm snagged. That distraction leads to him getting tossed to the ground, hearing his opponent wish him luck getting into Nanjiang Martial Arts University. The protagonist lands flat on his back on the court. While feeling the sting of the fall, he asks about Nanjiang University. Wang can hook him up with a full pass on resources until he hits level 3. Fang Ping does the math and realizes he's looking at tens of millions just for vitality pills and bone forging. But his cultivation teacher drops the bomb that he's good enough to get into the 2 top martial arts schools. The protagonist pops up and asks if these schools are actually worth it. Wang says they're legendary and get mad resources every year. Graduates from these schools throw down serious cash to keep training other powerful martial artists. That's why they can dish out pills when students are about to break rank 1. With thousands of students, the protagonist figures the costs are at least 800 million. But Wang warns that the rest of the resources gotta be earned through missions the student takes on. He mentions the criminal Fang Ping caught and reveals it was a mission from Sun City. He explains that in regular universities like Nanjiang, missions are rare, but not at the big-name ones. One's in the capital, where all the political drama goes down, and the other's in the magical city, the financial hub of the country. Wang says there's another reason these universities are super appealing, and the protagonist leans in, eager to hear what's up. Wang spills that common universities can't compete with the epic teaching mentors. In regular schools, teachers just need a bachelor's degree to teach. But at high-tier universities, the faculty has to be at least level 4 to even step into a classroom. In the magical city, there are 4 legendary masters at the martial arts university. The protagonist is blown away that there are 4 people like the great Master Ma. Despite all this, Wang believes our hero will shine no matter where he lands, and he tells him to think it through. Before bouncing, Wang Jinyang hopes the protagonist's name makes it into Nanjiang University. Fang Ping thinks about the offer, weighing how much he'd have to shell out for resources if he goes elsewhere. He leaves the stadium at dusk, mulling over his future. But the protagonist makes a call, and a bit later, he's sliding the acceptance notice into his backpack for the university. He and his fam are saying goodbye at the train station. His sister's hugging their mom, totally choked up and struggling to find the words. She hears Fang Ping telling her to behave and be a good kid at home. The protagonist warns it's time to hop on the train and starts to step away. Then, out of nowhere, Fang Yuan bolts toward her brother. With tears streaming down her face, she says he needs to find a girlfriend to spill all his bad habits and flaws. Plus, she's got one more thing to say. She asks him to promise he'll take care of himself. The protagonist, with misty eyes, smiles and nods at Fang Yuan's words. Hours later, we're dropped into the magical city, the financial heart of the Sino nation. With bridges and highways everywhere, it's buzzing. Even regular folks without a fancy background can score something for their hustle. Our protagonist steps off the train and is blown away by all the martial artists radiating energy. A security officer rolls up and asks to check his ID. Fang Ping grabs the document and hands it over to the guard. But when the evaluation device goes off, it warns there are no records of him being a martial artist, so he can't roam freely in the city. Fang Ping is confused and confirms he's definitely not a martial artist. The officer is shocked because the device showed a vitality of 199 calories, which only a martial artist should have. The protagonist explains he's a freshman at the magical city's martial arts university and came early to scope things out. The guard gets it and says he'll help with the registration, though he can't hide his surprise. He'll assist him in applying for a temporary martial arts pass. Fang Ping accepts the help, thinking these rules are just part of the deal since martial artists are basically walking weapons. Later, he scores the temporary pass card. Checking the data, everything seems on point. He also notices how much it looks like an ID card. This gets him daydreaming about how wild life in the magical city could be. Fang Ping finally rolls up to the martial arts university, totally blown away by the size of the entrance. Someone spots him and asks if he's a freshman since he looks so amazed. Soon Fang Ping asks if they know each other. The mysterious dude grins, introducing himself as Qin Feng Qing, a third year from the weaponry school. Fang Ping notices something interesting about this guy. His hand is chilling on a weapon, and he realizes it's a long knife. Out of nowhere, the student slices through the air with that knife, leaving Fang Ping totally speechless. He spins the weapon between his fingers like a pro and takes an attacking stance. Then he lunges at Fang Ping and waves his weapon right in the air. The student keeps it super close to Fang Ping's face, who's frozen in fear, asking him not to wave that knife around in public, cause that's just asking for trouble. Qin Feng Qing pulls back the knife and smiles more warmly, complimenting Fang Ping's chill vibes and asking for his name. Fang Ping introduces himself to the senior. He mentions it's no surprise a freshman who's forged his bones twice made it to the magical university. Qin Feng Qing steps back, saying getting into this university was a solid choice. And Fang Ping nods, recognizing the strength of his new buddy. The senior strolls back to campus, showing off the knife resting on his shoulder. He scratches his head, realizing that the freshman's accent sounds familiar and wonders where he's from, but he brushes it off, thinking it's not a big deal. He then digs into his jacket pocket and pulls out some bone-forging pills that should be enough to finish up his torso. And after that, he's planning to take down the Nanjiang Martial Arts University. Fang Ping is cruising around campus with his travel bag. He's checking out a freshman guide to find his way, and finally makes it to the spot he's been looking for, noticing that the building is way less intimidating than the campus entrance. Inside, he spots a receptionist in the lobby. She's reading issue number 10 of a magazine called Story, and when she sees him, she asks if he's a freshman. The protagonist says yes, and hands over the acceptance notice as proof. The receptionist points out that he's registering a month early, while most students show up 3 to 5 days before classes. Fang Ping explains he just wanted to check out the university, and the receptionist grumbles that his visit has made her day way busier. While typing on the computer, she tells him the dorms aren't open yet, and he should find somewhere else to crash. Suddenly, something on the screen makes her eyes go wide. The data on this freshman is anything but ordinary. Realizing this, she jumps up and claps her hands on the table, and says he should chill there for a bit while she tries to set up a move to the magical university hotel. She also promises she can hook him up with academic advisors to help him become a martial artist. Fang Ping asks if this can happen before classes kick off, and the receptionist admits, all excited, that she's all in for a potential martial artist. She explains that at the university, skills equal privileges, which is why she's going the extra mile for him. Fang Ping then thinks he wouldn't be getting this treatment if he hadn't completed the bone forging twice. Just then, a guy walks in. His name is Li Chengze, and he's the manager of the cleaning department at the Magical University Hotel. He says he rushed over when he heard an important figure had arrived and starts praising Fang Ping. The guy in the suit offers to help him move to the hotel. Fang Ping thanks him but says he can handle his own luggage, but the manager insists, saying it's part of his job. Outside, a fancy car is waiting for Fang Ping, and he's totally blown away by all this luxury. That good vibe keeps rolling when he gets to the hotel. His apartment has a private gym packed with machines that probably cost a fortune. The kitchen has an open layout and is stocked with everything needed to whip up a killer meal. The living room, with comfy sofas and a TV, is spacious and chill. The bedroom was lit up and had a massive bed. Fang Ping asks the manager if all this fancy stuff is really free. Li Chengzi assures him that all meals and stays are on the house. The protagonist strolls around the room, hyping up the space, and the manager explains that this room is a notch above the rest since he's completed the bone forging twice. This info hits the young man hard as he remembers Zhang's words about skills getting you perks. Li Chengze says goodbye, letting him know he's just a call away if our protagonist needs anything. After thanking the manager, Fang Ping finds himself solo in the living room of his swanky apartment, feeling pumped to realize he's now part of the elite squad. Days roll by, and the protagonist is munching lunch at the hotel restaurant. He thinks about the tens of thousands of yuan he's already saved on expenses, but when he checks the system, he sees he's spent a chunk prepping for the third bone forging, and considering how fast his energy is draining, he figures he'll need to stack even more cash in the future. While chomping on a meatball, he's grateful for the luck of having help from Huang Bin and Chef Jin. But thinking of a way to keep the benefits rolling, Fang Ping decides to launch a company. Even in this new world, he spots trends popping up around the internet and online shopping. Rumor has it that Ma Huateng, co-founder of the Ali Group, has already hit rank 7. Fang Ping wonders if he could kick off an online shopping biz with his 16 million yuan. But maybe starting a delivery service would be a smarter move. That idea vibes with him since it sounds easier and less techy to kick off. Still, he knows he'll need someone who knows the area to help manage things near the magical university. While brainstorming names, he overhears a conversation at another table in the restaurant. A mix-up happens between the waitress and a couple over a dirty dish. The waitress insists she served everything clean, but the guy stands up and gets all up in her face. He's fuming about being called a liar and demands she calls the manager right now. The protagonist watches, feeling uneasy about the dude's behavior. Not able to just sit there, he stands up, ready to teach the guy a lesson. But before he gets close, he spots someone else coming in. Li Chengze shows up to cool things down, and the waitress nearly cries tears of joy when she sees him. The cleaning manager gives a calm smile and asks the guy what's the issue. The man yells that he wants to talk to the general manager, not the cleaning guy. The waitress quickly fills Li Chengze in on what went down. He gently picks up a hair strand that fell into the dish and caused all the drama, and he explains that all hotel staff have to keep their hair shorter than shoulder length. He asks who could have broken that rule while the long-haired woman at the table looks super tense. The customer argues that the hotel's hygiene is trash and says he's going to file a complaint. The cleaning manager bows and apologizes for the hassle caused to the customer and his date. He promises to protect the rights and interests of the customers, and he says he'll send the hair strand for DNA analysis at the university lab. Suddenly, the long-haired woman yanks her partner and drags him toward the exit, saying there's no need for that. Fang Ping gives props to the manager for handling the mess while the waitress thanks him and gets back to work. Li Chengze apologizes again, bowing since he didn't want the student to see that chaos. The protagonist smiles, thinking the manager must have tons of experience in this gig. Somewhat awkwardly, the manager says he's been in this role for exactly 8 years. Fang Ping asks if he's ever thought about becoming a martial artist, imagining that fresh grads snag better jobs. Li Chengzi replies he's saving up to enroll in the course because being a martial artist means 3 or 4 times the perks. The protagonist wonders how long that'll take because in 4 or 5 years, Li will be over 30, and his energy won't let him hit a rank higher than 1. The manager accepts that reality, even if it's not ideal. Fang Ping then sets a deadline of 3 years. To the manager's surprise, Our main dude says he can help him become a martial artist for free, no strings attached. He even throws in a part-time gig. A warm smile spreads across Fang Ping's face as he sees the manager's jaw drop. A minute later, Manager Lee is sipping from a wine glass, chatting with Fang about the delivery company the young guy wants to kick off. He claims to be interested but has some serious doubts about how that'll pan out. This kind of work could totally mess with his cultivation after the company gets rolling. He's worried he might not live up to the protagonist's hype and says he can't handle that kind of pressure. Fanling jumps in, saying that besides skills, the manager's got connections from 8 years at the magical university and should stop being so modest. Plus, the protagonist is super confident he'll be a mid-level artist in 3 years, and when that happens, he'll make Lee the general manager of the hotel. The thought of this future has the cleaning manager totally impressed with our protagonist's planning skills and maturity. He quickly realizes this could be his shot at a whole new life. The protagonist insists he needs the manager's help, and if he accepts, he'll owe him a favor when he's a mid-level martial artist. Fast forward a month. In his apartment, the protagonist is grinding through a bone polishing and forging method. A sphere of red energy wraps around him as he focuses hard. His face is all scrunched up with effort, and he feels he's almost hit that sweet spot he's aiming for. The bones in his body start cracking as the energy surges through his limbs. The effort is so intense that drops of blood hit the floor. His body is drenched in sweat and marked with wounds, but he feels he's nailed the third bone forging. In the system, he checks his stats and sees his vitality shot up by 6 and his mental strength by 10 hertz. He realizes he dropped almost 2 million wealth to hit this milestone, all thanks to the time he saved by handing the company over to Li Chengze. After grabbing his towel, he opens the bedroom door with his blood-stained hand. As he swings the door open, Fang Ping says he just needs to chill and wait for classes to kick off tomorrow. Then, the next day, the magical university dorms start buzzing with students. A crowd of students heads to the 4 dorm districts, sorted by their entrance exam scores. They're all gossiping about the protagonist strutting toward District 1. That's where the martial artists and the top-tier students get to stay. Minutes later, Fang Ping opens the door to room number 86. He's blown away by the place he'll call home during his studies. It looks like a luxury pad, all the furniture sparkling clean. Even though he just spent a month in a fancy hotel room, this high-class setup shows off the magical university's cash flow, until 3 knocks on the door snap him out of his thoughts. When he opens it, Fang Ping sees a dude he thinks is his roommate. But nah, it's just his new neighbor, Fu Changding. He says he lives across the hall and wants to get to know our protagonist better. As he introduces himself, Fang Ping hides his discomfort at how much better looking and higher ranked his neighbor is. Then Changding picks up on the protagonist's distinct accent. He asks if he's from Nanjiang and quickly questions Fang Ping about knowing Wang Jiyang. Fang Ping says he knows him since Wang is a senior at the school. With bright eyes, Fu Changding spills his admiration for this martial artist, saying he heard Wang wiped the floor with all the rank 1 students at the magical university. This info totally catches our protagonist off guard. Changding keeps going about Wang, saying he made waves in the capital. He heard Wang challenged 8 martial arts dojos and took down all the students. Fang Ping is once again blown away by his senior's skills, and his neighbor adds that those dojos were run by mid-level martial artists. Fu Changding says goodbye, mentioning there's a meeting at the entrance of the building later in the afternoon, but our protagonist doesn't seem too hyped about that. After all, he now realizes Wang is way stronger than he thought. Meanwhile, in the hallway, Fu Changding glances at the freshman's door. With a worried look on his face, he suspects that Fang Ping might have forged bones twice, based on the vitality he felt while chatting about Wang. Later, a bunch of students gather in front of the practical training building, and someone at the mic asks everyone to chill for a second. But nah, the students keep chatting, leaving the dude at the mic totally stressed out. Then, a second guy, way more intimidating, steps up to the mic. He barks for everyone to stand straight, and his vibe is so intense that it feels like gravity just got cranked up. Even Fang Ping and his dorm buddy feel the weight of this dude's presence, but they manage to stay a bit more upright than the rest. The protagonist realizes this guy has some serious energy. The man at the mic introduces himself as Huang Jing, the dean of the armament school. He's about to kick off the school's allocation assessment for the freshmen. The protagonist is totally lost, wondering what this assessment even is. The dean spills the tea that the test will go down in the building they're standing in. On the first floor, students will dive into politics and cultural studies. On the second floor, they'll be all about researching pills and martial arts skills. On the third, they'll be crafting military tactics. And on the fourth, it's all about practical battles. The dean warns they've got 5 minutes to pick which floor they want to roll with. Plus, the floors will be sealed in an hour, and wherever they end up, that's their school. The students are buzzing, asking why they weren't assigned a floor when they got accepted. The dean explains that each floor can only hold 400 peeps. If they go over, everyone on that floor loses 30 academic points. Freshmen start with 50 points, and losing even one is a big deal. 3 points can snag a common vitality pill. The students freak out at the thought of losing half their points on day 1. Huang Jing reassures everyone, saying the university will throw missions their way to help them earn back those lost points. After hearing this, the protagonist realizes this assessment is way more intense than it looks. Then he hears Fu Changding calling out to him. The boy asks if the protagonist wants to team up. As they wait for the building entrance to open, Fu Changding tells him most will rush to the 4th floor. He figures if they work together, getting into the armament school won't be too tough. Fu Changding explains that the mentors pick their favorites, so they gotta stand out during the assessment. The protagonist gets that he needs to do everything to catch the mentor's eyes since Wang said having a solid pro by his side is key. Thinking about this, Fang Ping sees a chance to grab the attention of all the mentors. And if that happens, he can pick the best of the best. Suddenly, the dean shouts into the mic that a true martial artist has to be ready to give it their all. So he tells all students to bring their A game. The freshmen soak in the dean's words in silence. Then they bolt toward the practical combat training building. Some students start throwing punches at each other. The onlookers say this batch has some seriously good physiques, but the dean says they're just kids with energy. Then a guy jumps in, saying the dean is being too harsh, but Dean Huang fires back that things are getting wild in the catacombs and these freshmen aren't ready for it. And with that, everyone goes quiet. On a screen, we see everyone fighting to climb the stairs. It's turning into a full-on battle royale. A young dude gets tossed back after a kick to the stomach. In the chaos, he shouts that top-tier martial artists won't let anyone through. With only 400 spots per floor, some are already blocking their competition. The newcomer asks why the fighter is in his way. The fighter replies that anyone without 140 vitality doesn't deserve to go up to the 4th floor. The student in the orange jacket realizes that fighter's vitality is way higher than his. Out of nowhere, the protagonist zooms in front of the newcomers and starts climbing the stairs like a pro. He breezes past everyone with insane agility. He leaps mid-run and charges straight at the fighter guarding the stairs, easily landing a kick to the opponent's face. The blow leaves a single mark on the student's face, plus a bleeding nose. Fang Ping crouches down to check on the defeated fighter and realizes his hit was enough to knock him out cold. All the newcomers are shook by how strong our main character is, taking down a first-class fighter without breaking a sweat. Fu Changding pops up behind him and whispers that it was a genius move to grab attention like that. Fang Ping stands up and says he came to the Magic University because it's known for churning out mad geniuses. He even turned down a sweet 10 million yuan offer from Nanjiang University. Now he's regretting it, seeing that the students here seem kinda weak. With a look of pure swagger, Fang Ping declares that this Magic University doesn't deserve its hype. The dean and the other advisors are listening to this bold proclamation. They can't believe a newbie has the guts to trash-talk the Magic University. Suddenly, Dean Huang Jing's voice blasts through the building's speakers. He orders all students to take down the protagonist, promising 50 academic points to whoever does it. Fang Ping realizes his plan to grab the advisor's attention just backfired as a horde of students with a killer vibe approaches. Fu Changding walks up to him and says he might have overdone it with the whole stand-out thing. Fang Ping, already rolling with the punches, asks if Changding plans to join the hunt against him. Changding stares at him, thinking hard about what to do. He scratches his head, figuring that joining the other students won't make him stand out, but teaming up with Fang Ping could be a game changer, even if they lose. Fang Ping can't help but smile at his friend's response. He then shouts for the dean, wanting to know what he'll get if he takes down all the students. The dean pauses for a second, sizing up the situation. He decides that Fang Ping will snag 1 academic point for taking down non-martial artists and 5 points for martial artists. Our protagonist gets ready for battle, even though he thinks the dean's being a bit stingy, and the audacity of our protagonist has his friend hyped. A martial artist named Tang Songting in the crowd asks if Changding is rolling with the cocky newcomer. Apparently Changding knows him. Surprised someone like him made it into the Magic University. This jab gets under his skin. Fang Ping and Changding declare they're here to clean up the trash, and that definitely includes Tang Songting. While watching the chaos unfold, the dean asks where those 2 boys are from. An advisor chimes in that Fu Changding is a martial artist who's forged his bones twice and is close to leveling up his right leg bones. As for Fang Ping, he's from a humble fam in Nanjiang and has already forged his bones twice, plus he's the top dog in Ruyang. But someone behind them is suspicious, thinking Fang Ping has forged his bones more than twice. That's Tang Feng, the academic advisor ranked 6, who claims the newcomer must have completed bone forging 3 times. Another advisor, Zhou Shiping, who's at level 6 intermediate, asks if he's not from the top school in Sun City. The staff member confirms Fang Ping is from a secondary school, and the dean says that school rings a bell. Counselor Bai Ruoxi, ranked 5, mentions a troublemaker named Wang Jinyang who caused a ruckus at the university, came from there. Advisor Xu Jianzhou points out that the student said Nanjing University tried to recruit him, and Wang might be involved. Advisor Luo Yichuan, also at level 6 intermediate, agrees with Jianzhou, thinking Fang Ping and Wang Jinyang don't have a connection. Counselor Lu Fengguo just watches in silence as her colleagues chat. Meanwhile, the protagonist is throwing punches at anyone brave enough to step up. He's starting to feel let down by how weak the students are. Then someone suddenly tries to throw a punch at him. The protagonist dodges just in time. He grabs the attacker's arm, and then, with his other hand clenched into a fist, he lunges forward, landing a solid hit to the student's chin, who gets sent flying. The protagonist stands tall among the students still gearing up to face him, but he's starting to feel the fatigue after taking on so many opponents, until someone comes charging through the crowd at high speed, rushing toward our protagonist with a fist ready to attack. His name is Zhao Lei, the GOAT among freshmen for having forged his bones twice. Zhao lands a solid punch right on the protagonist's face, but Fang Ping is just stoked to still be standing. That means his posture training is actually working. A second challenger steps up to the protagonist. She's got long purple hair, and she's floating above him, sword ready to strike, totally out of his line of sight. The mysterious girl glares at Fang Ping and claims she's taking those 50 points. She gets ready to unleash her attack on our hero. Her name is Yang Xiaoman, and she's ranked number 1. But Fang Ping's stamina is still in the red, so he tells the system to refill his vitality points. He spends 100,000 wealth just to dodge her strike. Not exactly a win for his wallet, though. Then, out of nowhere, Fang Ping kicks the girl right in the face. She goes flying from the impact. Naturally, she's furious and calls for backup. And just like that, a girl with blue hair charges at our hero. He dodges easily and gets ready to counter. Boom! He lands a perfect punch to her stomach. Her name is Zhao Xuemei, and she's sent flying from the hit. Everyone's shocked by the power and speed of our protagonist. But Fang Ping knows he'd be toast without the system's powers. He warns Changding not to waste his vitality against the martial artists. But Changding quickly replies that he's in a tough spot with 10 people coming at him. Right after that, someone lands a hit on his arm. That makes Changding realize he's totally outnumbered. So he decides to bail while our protagonist takes on all those girls. Then, another martial artist gets ready to attack. Fang Ping spots it and tries to stay on the offensive, but he accidentally grabs the girl's chest. Chen Yongxi is left totally confused about how to react to this awkward moment. And of course, she's super embarrassed while our protagonist is shocked he missed his strike in such a goofy way. Chen Yongxi gets really mad and decides to curse our hero. She grabs a random fighter and unleashes all her frustration on him. Fang Ping apologizes, saying he was too focused on the fight to notice, but he doesn't even have time to explain before he senses another strike coming. He dodges easily while gearing up for a counterattack. The fighter declares he'll team up with Yang Xiaoman and Zhao Xuemei to take down Fang Ping. Meanwhile, Chen Yunxi and Tang Songting will lead a squad to take out Fu Changding. The poor guy says he hasn't fully recovered yet, so he's at a disadvantage. But they don't care and get ready to attack him anyway. Facing this chaos, Changding gets pretty annoyed that his buddy can't back him up. He says this while getting pounded by a bunch of fighters. More people show up and say the fight is seriously epic. After taking down several fighters, our protagonist grumbles about burning through so much wealth. He heads over to the boys who came to watch the fight. They try to explain they're just students from the social sciences school, but our protagonist isn't having it and argues that the dean didn't say he couldn't fight with people from other floors, so he gets ready to strike those weak boys for some points. After all this madness, the end of the school's allocation assessment for freshmen is announced, and it's clear everyone came out pretty banged up from this brawl. A boy running down the street says everyone there took a beating. He wonders what happened to that student. The student he's talking about is Changding, who got wrecked by Chen Yuxin's crew. He claims that even though he lost his honor, he still fought against 1,000 people solo. But our protagonist tells him not to brag. His situation is pretty rough. Changding questions how Fang Ping didn't even get hurt, and Fang Ping quickly responds that he didn't get hurt because he's just that powerful. Then, out of nowhere, the dean shows up with an overwhelming aura and says, Fang Ping is just a weak child. That puts our protagonist on high alert. Fang Ping asks if this is what a grandmaster's strength looks like, but he doesn't let it get him down and swears one day he'll be a way stronger fighter than the dean. Then, out of nowhere, it's announced that the freshmen from the weaponry school got ahead to Field 1 while the tactics school freshmen are off to Field 2. Our main dude asks why they aren't chatting about academic points. Changding jumps in, saying maybe the dean's just embarrassed about that. To their surprise, it's announced that academic points will be handed out to everyone at once after the school allocation. And the guy argues there's no need for the dean to sweat the small stuff. With that explanation, Changding makes our protagonist admit he was wrong. Of course, Fang Ping gets pretty ticked off and questions his buddy. Changding quickly fires back that this dude is the teaching advisor of the Wild Lion, a level 6 martial artist who only loses to the dean. That's why it's super risky to go against his opinions. Then, out of nowhere, Tang Fang starts hyping up Changding for his test performance. And obviously, our protagonist is totally caught off guard by this. The advisor adds that Changding didn't flinch even when the students teamed up against him. Fang Ping starts feeling pretty awkward about this, since he's the one who should be getting the props. But then, out of nowhere, he starts talking about our protagonist, calling him arrogant for not accepting defeat even when things get tough. Naturally, our protagonist is fuming over this comment, and the advisor tells Changding to head to his office during the advisor selection. With all this drama, he tries to chill our protagonist, who's clearly annoyed. Fang Ping vows he'll make advisor Tang regret saying that to him. Then, boom, we're at the exam where the advisor announces everyone can pick their teaching advisors. He tells the students to think hard before rushing into any choices. The first advisor is Luo Yichuan, who wants to forge the bones of the upper limbs for a solid posture. The second is Bai Ruoxi, who only teaches girls passionate about sword techniques. The third advisor is Xu Jianzhou, who's all about basic knife skills. Our protagonist quickly figures out that each advisor has their own vibe, and he needs to pick the one that fits his goals best. Fang Ping thinks he won't get rejected since he's already forged his bones 3 times. He decides to ask Changding who he's gonna choose, but he's totally losing it and can't make up his mind. With all this going on, our protagonist decides to step out for a breather, but then some girls catch his eye. He hears about a super strong advisor named Wu Wudi, and she's just chilling in a chair. Her requirements say she only takes a few students, and lucky for our protagonist, he's on that list. But Fang Ping decides to weigh the pros and cons of picking her, so he keeps walking to clear his head. But Wu Wudi isn't letting him slip away and assures him he'll be safe under her wing. But he's totally confused about what she means. With all this doubt, Wu Wudi asks if he knows Wang Jinyang. He quickly replies that he thinks everyone knows him. She claims that this guy got into the Magic University a year ago and started hunting all the freshmen. And with that danger in mind, Wu Wudi offers to protect our protagonist. Then, out of nowhere, she's interrupted by the advisor, who bangs the table to get everyone's attention. But Wu Wudi doesn't even flinch. Tang claims that the Magic University students aren't that petty, but she asks him to make sure everyone stays safe. Unfortunately, the advisor can't promise that. Then Wu Wudi stands up from her chair and keeps pushing for student safety. She tells our protagonist to hit her up if he feels threatened, since she's got a grandmaster backing her. Naturally, our protagonist is shocked that this random woman has a grandmaster on her side, but Counselor Tang is pretty annoyed with Wu Wudi treating the students' futures like a game. She quickly snaps back that everyone chose to study martial arts to learn how to fight, stating she knows our protagonist comes from a regular family with no martial artists. Wu Wudi adds that it's way tougher for people like Fang Ping to make it in the martial arts world, and this seems to hit our protagonist hard, as his expression shifts a bit after hearing those words. When suddenly Wu Wudi drops the bomb that she owns shares in the pill-making company and plans to hook Fang Ping up with these pills. Our main dude is totally hyped about this news. I mean, who wouldn't want to save a ton of cash? Then Wu Wudi decides to hand over 10 common vitality pills as proof of her claims. Of course, our main dude is stoked about this generous move from his new mentor. He's all in and accepts the offer. And just like that, his wealth skyrockets by over $1 million. With a grin plastered on his face, Fang Ping declares he's gonna learn from Wu Wudi from now on. She gives him an access card to sort out all his martial arts questions. The counselor warns Wu Wudi to keep an eye on her students. After all, more than half of them have either gotten hurt or kicked the bucket in recent years. Naturally, Fang Ping is pretty freaked out by this. He's not trying to meet his maker just yet, but Wu Wudi reassures the counselor, saying she's got it all under control. Still, that doesn't ease our main dude's worries, who's deep in despair and scared of biting the dust. Then out of nowhere, someone strides up to apply. Xiaomei walks over to our main dude and his mentor. She asks if she can be her student. Wu Wudi is all for it. After all, Xiaomei was already on her radar, but her friend tries to warn her that this could be a risky move since half of Wu Wudi's former students didn't make it. Still, Xiaomei stands her ground and sticks to her choice. Our main dude is blown away that the girl didn't back down from Wu Wudi even after hearing the risks. Changding pops up to let our main dude know that his mentor is super strong. Fang Ping is curious and wants the deets on this. Changding adds that mentor Wu Wudi is on the same level as the counselor. With this info, our main dude wonders why his friend didn't pick her even knowing her strength. But Changding says he's all about learning weapon techniques, so he went with mentor Luo Yichuan. Fang Ping jokes that his friend is scared the counselor will come after him, but Changding quickly fires back, claiming he's brave as a lion. After all, the two top students have already chosen the counselor. Then Changding says Fang Ping shouldn't sweat a weakling like him. Our main dude suggests his friend should hit up the hospital. I mean, the poor guy's face is so swollen from getting wrecked in the test. But Changding is determined to grab his academic points right away. They head to the university's logistics department, and both are pumped to get their points. As they walk in, they spot a bunch of older students armed to the teeth. Fang Ping figures they must be upperclassmen, but they're all cracking jokes about Changding's beat-up face. After becoming the punchline, they approach a secretary. Changding asks for help to get his points, but he gets super annoyed when he sees he only got 45 points and claims it's a total system glitch. The secretary just shrugs, saying there's nothing she can do about it. Now it's our main dude's turn, and he introduces himself as Fang Ping from the New Life District. To everyone's shock, the secretary reveals he racked up 152 points. Naturally, Changding is fuming and super jelly. The secretary mentions she's been in this department for 3 years, and this is the first time she's seen a freshman score that high. Fang Ping decides to ask what he can do with his points. The young lady explains they're like currency for everything from food to high-tech gadgets. Plus, the credits can be swapped for real cash. But soon Changding starts whining that the exchange rates are totally unfair. The secretary quickly shoots back that the university doesn't promote trading points for cash. But our main dude isn't sweating it. After all, with those blood pills, his wealth shot up by over 4 million. That cash is going to keep him set for a while. But Changding interrupts his thoughts, calling him to go trade some pills. The vendor shows them a menu usually kept under wraps for newbies. He introduces 3 pills that can help break through the martial barrier. The best part? They're only 45 credits each. Outside the university, those same pills would cost around 600 grand each. Seeing this, our main dude spots a golden opportunity to flip those pills for some serious profit. After a long day, Fang Ping decides it's time to crash and catch some Z's. He realizes that without the system, he'd be toast against these martial artists. After all, the bone intensity of these fighters is off the charts. Although our main dude has seriously leveled up his bones, he's feeling a bit bummed. Even with all that training, it seems he hasn't leveled up enough. But Fang Ping isn't throwing in the towel just yet. He's ready to smash through that top-tier martial barrier. The next day, our guy decides to swing by the teacher's dorm. There, he runs into Wu Woody, who just rolled out of bed. But instead of focusing on the convo, he gets distracted by his mentor's melons. Yeah, that definitely got him a bit riled up. She's not having it though, and gives Fang Ping a serious side-eye. Our protagonist quickly figures out that his mentor doesn't see him as a man, which is why she's so chill about it. Soon, Wu Woody invites him in and tells him to shut the door. She asks why he's crashing at her place so early. Determined, Fang Ping declares he wants to be a martial artist. Wu Woody is taken aback, thinking it'd take him way longer to say that. But Fang Ping insists he needs something to become a top fighter. He thought the third bone forging was super powerful, but his mind changed after the test. Wu Woody gives him props, saying his analysis is pretty sharp. She tells him that training his bones for the 4th time is pointless. It won't really help him. So, she advises him to break through to the next level for better skills. She explains that the hardening methods he's been using aren't cutting it. After all, a martial artist should be strengthening the whole body, not just bits and pieces. Wu Woody asks if he's got his pills. Fang Ping says yeah and pulls them out of his pocket, but his mentor bursts out laughing at how many he's got. She tells him he doesn't need to carry that many pills, but Fang Ping argues it's better to be safe than sorry. Deep down, he knows if he wants to level up, he's got to take some risks. Wu Woody then asks if he's been working on his lower limbs, and our dude starts meditating, trying to train them up. He's focusing his energy into his veins. Watching him, Wu Woody realizes he doesn't even need those vitality pills. But he keeps using them because, fear of death is real. She definitely sees some serious potential in Fang Ping. After all her students were super talented, but some of them didn't make it, and that hit Wu Woody hard. So she's extra careful not to let that happen again. Meanwhile, our protagonist keeps evolving and reaching new heights. Then, out of nowhere, something shifts inside him. The system chimes in, saying he's officially a rank 1 martial artist. He calls out to his mentor, saying he's broken through that top-tier martial barrier. Wu Woody says she saw that coming since Fang Ping has done bone forging 3 times. She tells him to pop a pill to refill his vitality and check his strength level. After taking the pill, he's blown away by how much his stats shot up. He decides to use the system to boost his vitality faster, saving some pills in the process. And this crazy vitality regen leaves his mentor totally shook. She's thinking his absorption rate is off the charts. Wu Woody tells him to chill and come back only on Saturday. On that day, Fang Ping's gotta hit the academy where his mentor will teach some techniques. He's super hyped about learning those techniques so soon. Our protagonist can't wait to spill the tea to Changding, who's totally impressed. This makes him accuse Fang Ping of hacking for leveling up so fast. Fang Ping quickly shuts that down, saying life isn't a game, but he's kinda using a hack called a system. This leads Chengding to make Fang Ping pay for their meal in the cafeteria. Fang Ping thinks it's weird that his friend wants cafeteria food, but when they get there, he's completely blown away. All the dishes are ridiculously pricey. Chengding quickly explains this is the second biggest fast food spot in martial cuisine, where every dish comes with special pills that boost a fighter's strength. He mentions that even though he's from a wealthy family, they still watch their wallets and avoid splurging. That's why he insisted Fang Ping foot the bill. While they're munching, a crew of veterans rolls up. They ask if Fang Ping knows Wang Jinyang. Fang Ping quickly replies that yeah, but he's not looking for trouble. He warns the veterans that his mentor is known as the Invincible Wu, adding that the school totally bans fights between different ranks. And the dorms? Yeah, no fighting allowed there either. The veteran starts hyping up the protagonist, calling him the king of the freshmen. Then he throws a threat, saying our guy better cough up some of Wang Jinyang's debt. Fang Ping chimes in, saying they're just itching for a reason to throw down. But they quickly fire back that it's all part of the university vibe. The veterans are fuming that our protagonist got famous so fast, especially as a freshman. They decide to challenge Fang Ping to a duel in a month. Our protagonist wonders if this is going to be a life or death showdown, but the veterans brush it off, saying they just want a friendly match. Still, they claim Fang Ping won't walk away unscathed. After all, he's up against a martial artist at the peak of rank 1. The veterans start pressuring him for an answer, but our protagonist is chill about it and accepts the challenge. Then they bounce, setting the battle for next month. Irritated, Chengding asks why Fang Ping took the duel, but our protagonist just says he's not scared of them, and he wants to see what a real martial artist can do. A few days later, Fang Ping rolls up to the training area as planned, but there's someone else already there. He recognizes her as a student of Wu Wudi. Faced with this, our protagonist decides to introduce himself to his new training buddy. She introduces herself as Zhao Shuimei and seems super chill at first, but they end up shaking hands for over a minute. Our protagonist feels a bit awkward and doesn't know how to break the ice, when suddenly Zhao tells him to stop shaking her hand. She says the news about his duel has spread like wildfire around campus, alerting Fang Ping to the danger he's in by accepting this fight. But our protagonist says he's got this, and is confident he can win. Zhao is pretty shocked that he's not even sweating it. Then, out of nowhere, Mentor Wu Wudi shows up, interrupting their convo, and both greet her out of respect. Surprisingly, Wu Wudi has heard about the duel too and isn't planning to stop him. But she's kinda shocked that our protagonist would risk it all for something so trivial. Fang Ping argues that he can win and he's ready to train for it, but his mentor isn't buying it. Wu Wudi explains that their training is about to kick off. She says she's gonna teach them some sick offensive and defensive moves. Then, out of nowhere, Wu Wudi throws a kick at lightning speed, nailing the wooden target perfectly. The impact was so intense it opened a perfect hole. Our protagonist is blown away that a simple kick could pack that much punch. The mentor says that move is called the piercing kick. She explains that all the energy needs to be focused on one spot to deal serious damage. Startled, Zhao asks if that attack could actually finish someone off. Wu Wudi quickly replies that yeah, it's a combat technique meant to take out the opponent. She explains that from now on, her students will face life or death situations and need to be ready to survive. After all, when they hit the arena, skill and strength decide who lives or dies. Doesn't matter if the opponent is a classmate or a friend. One day, our protagonist will even have to face Wang Jinyang in a life or death duel. That's why Wu Wudi needs to teach her students some serious combat skills. And if our protagonist passes her test, she'll hook him up with a great gift. Faced with this challenge, Fang Ping starts gearing up to try the piercing kick technique. Wu Wudi praises his quick thinking and says he needs to learn fast. Our protagonist says that getting the hang of force gathering and condensation seems easy. This leaves Zhao pretty annoyed since she's struggling to understand anything. She gets fed up with our protagonist's teasing and decides to throw a shoe at him, throwing a disrespectful gesture as a way to roast him. Wu Wudi tells Zhao to chill. After all, our protagonist is a prodigy, and that's why he picks up techniques so fast. With this boost from her teacher, she decides to hit the training hard. But now she's way more intense, still irritated. Wu Wudi tells Fang Ping to show off the technique. He starts focusing energy in his foot, aiming to make the attack hit harder, forcing a complete condensation. Our protagonist gets ready and delivers the kick with all his might against the wooden pillar. But his mentor is super upset that he executed the strike, and by ignoring his sensei, Fang Ping ended up getting hurt a lot. Wu Wudi nailed the strike easily since he's rank 6, but our dude is still rank 1, so he's gotta chill. After that, she decides to wrap up training for the day and pick it back up tomorrow. Our protagonist wonders what kind of gift his mentor will hook him up with, but she says he'll have to wait until Fang Ping wins the duel next month. Before bouncing, Wu Wudi tells our protagonist to hit up the logistics office for some pointed leather shoes. He realizes that these kicks could seriously amp up his kick game. After training, our protagonist heads back to the dorm to catch some Z's. He suddenly remembers he hasn't called home since he got to college, so he decides to ring up his fam and give them the scoop. Of course, Fang Ping gets a lecture for being MIA without a call, and the poor girl thought her brother ghosted them because he didn't need the fam anymore. But our protagonist assures her he'd never forget his family and asks how the rents are doing. With tears, she replies that they're all good. Everyone at home is hyped about Fang Ping's call and asks the little sis if he's doing all right. Our protagonist recognizes his uncle's voice on the line. He tells his sister to send his love to him, but Fang Ping quickly gets to the point, saying she's officially a martial artist now. Everyone freaks out hearing this news, totally unexpected. Our protagonist even feels a bit awkward seeing all the hype. His uncle says he's super proud and didn't think Fang Ping would level up so fast. But our protagonist tries to stay humble, saying he didn't do anything special, since 100 people also broke through the martial barrier. Of course, his uncle is shocked and realizes this university is the real deal. He calls his brother, offering him a job in the Human Resources Department. Naturally, our protagonist's dad is pretty blown away by this opportunity. After all, he only got this thanks to his son, who's now a martial artist. The next day, our protagonist goes to snag the shoes his mentor asked for, but his request gets shot down since he's not considered an official martial artist yet. However, our protagonist insists he became one just a few days ago. The salesperson tells him to get his official martial artist document so he can buy the shoes without a hitch. So our protagonist decides to grab that license. When he gets to the exam room, he sees someone already opening the door. He's surprised to see a familiar face pop up. Our protagonist recognizes her as Yang Xiaoman, who had previously ambushed him. She also recognizes him as the legendary king of newcomers, claiming she knows about the duel happening in a month. Yang teases him, asking if he wouldn't want to challenge her too. And our protagonist says if he gets the chance, he's totally down. He steps toward Yang Xiaoman, calling her sexist. Of course, she doesn't take that lightly and fires back, telling him not to twist her words. Yang insists that Fang Ping will face way stronger opponents who will take him down easily, but our protagonist stands firm, saying he's not scared of anyone, and that all his enemies are just losers who didn't have the talent to become martial artists. That's why Fang Ping doesn't sweat any of these weaklings. But Yang calls him out, saying his arrogance is dangerous, and he should never underestimate his opponents. This makes our protagonist respond that his confidence is just keeping it real. Naturally, all this bravado ends up annoying Sakura from Shopee quite a bit, who decides to end the convo right there. However, our protagonist chooses to brush off the whole situation and strolls into the exam room. Inside, he finds the machine that's going to turn him into a martial artist. The bald old man explains that Fang Ping needs to leave a mark on this steel plate to become a rank 1 martial artist. So our protagonist will only pass the exam if he can put a dent in this plate. To pull this off, he uses the piercing kick technique, creating a small hole in that steel plate. The impact was enough for the old baldy to recognize him as a martial artist, handing over the new license to our protagonist, who will need to come back to renew it whenever he levels up. Fang Ping asks if he'll have to return when he hits the intermediate levels, but the examiner tells him not to get ahead of himself. After all, that'll take a hot minute. In any case, our main dude is totally hyped to hit rank 1, but old baldy is low-key shook by the whole thing. He can't believe a freshman could pack such a punch. Then, out of nowhere, those two clowns start roasting our main dude's impact. After checking the steel plate, they think he's totally unprepared for the duel he's about to lose. In their minds, there's no way he's leveling up in just a month. But old baldy is not having it. Fang Ping only flexed a fraction of his power in the exam, so he's convinced those two clowns are way off base. I mean, the explosion from our dude's kick was wild for a rank 1 freshman, and you can bet old baldy was buzzing after seeing that strength. Once he gets his license, Fang Ping heads back to the store. The attendant starts jotting down the order, saying those boots weigh 2 kilograms. So, the total for those kicks is 40 academic points. Our main dude is shook. Those shoes cost more than his whole house. He starts questioning if dropping that cash was a smart move. But even though he's hesitant, he decides to go for it, aiming to get stronger later. After the buy, he finally gets his hands on a knuckle duster. Even if it cost more than he planned, it's still a win. With that little splurge, he's wiped out all 50 academic points he saved up. So, he decides to meet up with Lee to check on the company's gains. He plops down at the table and hands over 10 common vitality pills. After all, he doesn't need them and wants to cash in. But Lee jumps in, saying he should focus on martial arts first. He can't ditch the resources he gets from martial arts for the company. But Fang Ping fires back, saying he's a level 1 martial artist now and doesn't need those basic pills. This totally catches Lee off guard. That level up was super fast. Now that our dude's a rank 1 martial artist, expanding the company should be a breeze. To cap off the chaos, Fang Ping decides to toss something at the manager. And it's a vitality pill, no less. He promised Lee he'd help him level up as fast as possible. This gesture hits the manager right in the feels, and he vows to grind harder for the company. A month flies by since that chat, and our dude is rocking those new shoes. Surprisingly comfy for kicks made of alloy, right? The store guy agrees with Fang Ping. These shoes are legit. He leads our dude to a room to test out the strength of his new gear. The old man explains this room is built just for testing this kind of stuff. But Fang Ping is shocked to see the place already wrecked by other fighters testing their weapons. The old man then checks out the impact our dude made. He's blown away by the strength and realizes Fang Ping's really leveled up that penetrating kick technique. This makes the old man crack a little smile, saying freshmen are getting stronger every year. After a bit, we're taken to the training dojo. Suddenly, Zhao asks if our dude has any updates on his duel. He says the fight's happening tomorrow. Zhao is totally surprised and a bit annoyed he didn't tell her sooner. After all, Fang Ping is her classmate, and she cares a ton about him. Zhao jokes that if she were as pretty as Yungxi, he'd care more, but he says she's already beautiful. This makes her blush and question if he's being real. But with that Prince Charming vibe, our dude insists he's serious. This totally makes Zhao feel both embarrassed and happy at the same time. But it doesn't take long for our dude to mess it up by comparing her to a boy. This gets her super annoyed since he doesn't see her as a feminine woman. Then, Zhao gets interrupted by someone calling her name. It's Wu Wuti, who wants to have a private chat with our dude. And after Zhao bounces, the sensei warns Fang Ping to use that penetrating kick wisely in tomorrow's battle. She mentions that once you step into the arena, it's all or nothing, and if our main dude realizes he's got no shot, he should just throw in the towel. But Fang Ping fires back, saying he's not about to wave the white flag. Then Wu Wuti drops the bomb that the head honcho of the students running this showdown is Liu Yongwen, who's ranked 3. She also spills the tea that he has a younger bro who was a total beast at the Magic University. But last year, Wang Jinyang wrecked him so bad that he ended up in a coma, chilling in the hospital. The sensei warns our hero that he needs to make the most of his training time. But all Fang Ping can think about is how old Wang seems way too nice to be a fighter. Then Wu Wuti decides to toss a level 2 vitality pill his way, even though it could mess him up. He's grateful for the gesture but can't hide his shock at his mentor's random kindness. After that, Fang Ping hits the hay, and the fight day finally rolls around. We meet the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Zhou Yan, who's grumbling about having to oversee a student brawl. Then a dude pops up, calling the minister out for being too cocky. She snaps back, reminding him about the match and tells him to keep it cool and stick to the rules. He gets all riled up, whining that the martial arts society is getting way too full of themselves. But Minister Zhou isn't here for the drama and warns the angry guy that this isn't a friendly reminder, it's a straight-up warning. Of course, that just makes the young man even more furious. The minister keeps talking about the rules while the guy tries to hold back his urge to throw down. She tells her assistant to call Senior Chen to handle backup and let the president and vice president know about the fight. Then something catches her off guard. She shifts her stance, saying she'll personally let the dean know and have him handle the fight. Turns out she didn't expect rank 6 martial artist Lu Fengguo to show up. The sensei looks super sleepy and bored. She says there's no need to bother the dean since it's just a death match between some level 1 students. Wu Wuti reassures the martial arts society that if Zhang Guoru and the others try to jump in, she'll be the one to stop them. Naturally, that leaves the guy feeling both annoyed and scared. Meanwhile, the minister seems to chill out after her statement and moves on with the fight. Then the sensei asks if her student has shown up yet, but she gets a no back. This makes her realize just how cocky the martial arts society really is. We switch to our main dude, who accidentally crashed a love moment between 2 kids. He's trying to channel Zoro, totally lost and clueless about where the fight is happening. Everyone in the arena starts getting antsy about the competitor's tardiness, with some even saying he's bailed on the fight. Finally, the door swings open. It's our protagonist, rolling in and apologizing for being late. He starts making his way down the stairs while the minister questions if he's really ready to take on the challenge. Fang Ping asks what would happen if he just said no. Then a guy in the crowd warns him to watch his mouth since he's the one who accepted the challenge. But they both get cut off by the minister, who's clearly not in the mood. She tells the guy in the audience to zip it because she wants to chat with our protagonist. After that little scolding, the whole place goes quiet. She explains that at the Magic University, life or death matches are fair game as long as both sides agree. If one side isn't down, the challenge gets tossed out. And if she finds out one side is being pressured, the Martial Arts Society will definitely step in. Then the minister asks again if our protagonist is cool with the challenge. He quickly replies, saying yes. He adds that no one twisted his arm to do this. The minister points out that Fang Ping is a freshman facing off against 4 people, so he gets to call the shots. But our dude looks a bit lost, not sure what to ask for. He mentions that the older students can't use sharp weapons, and since he's up against 4 opponents, he needs a vitality pill from each senior. Before he can finish, the minister turns to the other competitors for their thoughts. They seem a bit unsure about it, until the third-year student Liu Yongwen offers 4 rank 1 vitality pills. Fang Ping is totally down for it, surprised they actually agreed. Then the minister gives the green light for the fight to kick off. With a smirk, our main guy asks for the name of the first senior. He introduces himself as Chen Guolong from the 3rd year of the armament school. Fang Ping can't help but wonder why a random senior would pick a fight with a freshman who's done nothing to him. To stir the pot, our dude asks if he was also a victim of Wang Jiang. Chen's all, "Are you really gonna back down?" And Fang's like, "Yeah, I'm weaker, but I'm still taking those pills." Zhou chimes in, saying he could surrender, but that would totally wreck his reputation. Not fazed. Our boy says it's better to throw in the towel than accidentally get wrecked. He then asks the group leader if the plan is to take him out. Liu shakes his head, saying that's not the vibe. But hey, things could get wild if someone loses it. The protagonist mentions Wang warned him about this, but all he wants is to chill and gather resources. Even though his mentor told him not to be a pushover, he's not used to this kind of chaos. After a lot of back and forth, the young man says whatever went down between the seniors, and Jin isn't on him. But he gets that he might have rubbed them the wrong way, so he's ready to throw down, because if he backs out, they'll keep coming for him. The minister shouts for the match to start. Like, right now. Fang decides to make the first move. Feeling himself, the dude in the lilac shirt says his bones are reformed, thinking that's enough to block the attack. But surprise, surprise, the tip of our boy's boot catches him off guard. Screaming, he shoves the young man away, but our dude charges back in with brass knuckles aimed at his forearm. The opponent swings back, but our guy dodges just in time and lands a hit below the belt. Chen's fuming, promising that if he catches him, it's game over. Using all his speed, the protagonist nails the guy in the head with his boot. Down he goes, face planting into the ground. A pool of strawberry juice forms beneath the martial artist's head, and Yang and Xuemei start freaking out, realizing the worst has happened. In his head, Ping feels bad and, thinking of his fam, admits he's scared of dying. Out loud, he says he couldn't control his power, but Liu reassures him that once the match starts, anything can happen. Trying to shake off the feels, our boy insists they should keep going. Because wrapping it up fast means catching the bus, Zhang Guowei steps onto the mat, calling him brave. Then he spills that at the start of the year. Wang broke half his ribs, keeping him from training for ages. And if he graduates, he'll be stuck at level 1 forever. So taking it out on the kid who uses the same moves as the guy who wrecked his life is his only shot. So he's gotta try to take him out unless he wants to be the next one down. Our boy says they're kinda alike. Cutting in, Joe tells both to start throwing punches. The curly-haired dude lands the first hit, forcing Fang to block like crazy against the storm of punches. In the crowd, the girl with blue hair is worried someone's gonna bite the dust again. Guo figures if he keeps attacking non-stop, the young man will tire out fast since he's low on strawberry juice and energy. Our boy starts gasping for air, giving his opponent even more confidence, who seems to have endless energy. The other martial artists are hyped about the chance of the protagonist going down. Worried, Liu says at this rate, her mentee won't even have enough juice for a pill. Mocking, the curly-haired guy says the young man can't even stand straight and promises he'll make sure his revenge dies with him. As he dodges the next punch, Fang manages to max out his vitality, and lifting his leg, he lands a solid kick to the guy's face. While losing consciousness, the opponent wonders how that's even possible and how the boy bounced back so fast. The fight wraps up when Guo's face hits the ground, leaving Liu completely stunned, just like everyone else watching who didn't even see the protagonist use a pill. Determined, our boy calls out for the next challenger. The minister asks if he won't take a break, and when he hears the answer is no, he calls another martial artist to step up. Shaking like a leaf, a dude in a blue shirt gives in and says he'll chill out from now on. Realizing that the martial arts grind might not be his vibe, the leader yells for Chang, who just keeps strutting away without a glance back. Noticing the scene, a girl with pink hair jumps in, saying she's next. But Yang steps in, saying they should just throw in the towel since it's clear they can't win this round. Looking at Fang, the guy mentions his little bro was a genius too, but after getting wrecked by Wang, he's stuck at rank 1 forever. Which means in martial arts, it's all about strength, no right or wrong. Even though he's itching to take down the jerk who hurt his brother and the one who jacked his moves, rules say he can't do anything now, but when Ping hits rank 3, he'll know what his bro went through. Out of nowhere, Jin shows up and says the young man doesn't need to wait anymore, because he's here to throw down. The crowd goes wild, totally shocked to see the martial artist. Not even fazed, he asks Liu if he's in or out. A teacher jumps in, shouting that Wang doesn't belong here and better not cause any drama. The young man fires back, saying he's playing by the rules, or else he would have already knocked the dude out. He then drops the bomb that in 3 days, he'll hit the 4th realm so the teacher can step up too. Anyone with guts can take him on. Thinking it over, Lu realizes why the young man ghosted for a bit and figures if he fights everyone, Mowu might not survive the chaos. Since no one wants to step up, Jin calls it out, saying he knew they were just trying to scare the new guy. The student leader claims it's a fair challenge since Fang agreed to join in, but the martial artist disagrees, saying there's nothing fair about a fight where a newbie in the first realm has to face a bunch of pros at the top, so he asks again if anyone wants to try and take him down. That gets the teacher fuming. Shouting, Wang says they should settle this on the mat and asks if the guy really thinks he's too scared to take on the students. Intervening, the advisor cuts him off, saying if he keeps pushing the young man, he'll have to deal with the fallout from whatever happens next. Looking at the protagonist, Jin says if the young man feels shaky, he can just bounce, because he'll handle everyone sooner or later, and when he hits the 5th realm, no one's making it out alive. Lu chimes in, saying that's enough and reminds the young man that Ping is his student, then points out that this whole mess is because of past actions, and it's not smart to underestimate Mowu, especially not to feel invincible, but to think about his student, who'll have more issues when he can't help him anymore. Even agreeing, Wang warns Lu not to think he'll escape when he hits the 4th realm, and if he puts Ping through that again, he better be ready to be fatherless. Shouting, the gray-haired guy asks if the young man would dare to challenge his dad. Confirming, he says it's pointless to mention that if it weren't for his master, the dude would have already taken him out, since the great master valued him by chance, and if you compare, he's worth way more. The minister stands up and asks who brought Jin here. Raising his hand, the blue-haired guy takes the blame and says he didn't expect such a wild show, and that anyone who's not feeling it can challenge the young man. Turning around, Wang declares he'll stick around for 3 days, and anyone wanting revenge should ditch their fear of death. Standing still, Ping thinks to himself that the young man stole all the spotlight and figures that after all this, he'll finally get some peace. The advisor says the boy's strategy and performance were on point. Curious, Yang asks how he bounced back so fast, but the protagonist shoots back, asking if her mentor didn't teach her to mind her own business, and warns that if she keeps prying, she'll get side-eyed by everyone. Jumei says the young man feels different after taking a life. Our boy decides to bounce and leave the trio of girls to their own vibes. The advisor agrees, saying they should let the boy chill for a bit to process the day's craziness. Outside, Fang hits up Wang and finds out he's at the school's guest house. Worried, he mentions that spot is Mowu territory, but the young man just shrugs, saying he's waiting for someone to step up, which hasn't happened yet. Later, at the restaurant, Jin says he didn't show up earlier to stop the challenge because he wanted Ping to see that running away isn't always the move. The protagonist thanks him but says he wasn't scared at all. He just wanted to join in because he's tired of being seen as weak and wants to learn what being a warrior is all about. When asked if he learned anything, he nods and says a warrior isn't afraid of death. Jin laughs, saying everyone's got a fear of death. Agreeing, the blue-haired guy points out that the folks who challenged him were mad about being pushed aside by Wang, but that doesn't mean they weren't scared of biting the dust. Noticing Fang's face change, he reassures him that it was all self-defense and reminds him that living or dying is just part of the warrior life. Thinking it over, the protagonist wonders if it's really true that only the strong survive. Snapping him back to reality, Wang says the young man is different now, so he should just focus on training until he gets the hang of it. Ping thanks him for the support and asks what Jin's mission is in the magical city. Feng Qin jumps in, saying it's something huge, but his friend cuts him off, saying the protagonist can't get involved yet. The blue-haired guy tells the young man to keep his head in the game and trust Wang. Our boy agrees, realizing the mission is probably way out of his league, so asking more won't do any good. We're taken to the Yangcheng Yiguan garden, where Fang feels a wave of relief being home. Suddenly, he hears his little sister's voice, who was waiting for him even though she didn't know if he'd show up today. Our boy runs to hug her, but the little girl squats down and asks why he's back in the afternoon. He explains that mornings are packed but afternoons are chill, so it's better to come back then. Another girl calls for Yuan, saying today's the day they're going to teach the boys from secondary school a lesson. The little girl tells her and her friends to hush, but it's too late. The protagonist asks why his sister didn't wait to reclaim Yuanpei territory. Then, he pinches her cheek and says they should head home to sort things out. Seeing them, Lee asks why her son didn't give her a heads up about coming back. Without answering, the young man tells his sister to spill the tea to their mom. After all, she's a big girl now. The woman says her daughter and her friends need to learn a lesson for being so persistent. Yuan says she just sold some stuff her brother didn't use. He asks what she sold, and their mom says aside from 2 outfits, everything else was gone. Seeing his room's state, Ping asks how his sister could do that. She replies that she couldn't pass up the chance to make some cash since everyone wants a warrior's stuff. After a bit, everyone gathers to eat, and Ming asks why the girl's head is full of roosters. While enjoying family time, our boy remembers the battles and feels grateful to still be kicking. A few days fly by, and we see Ping making the most of his time before heading back to school. Shocked, Yuan asks why he has to leave so early and says she's worried he'll get bullied again. The protagonist says he's the one who intimidates others now, and before he bounces, he tells his little sister to look after their parents since she's practically an adult. As the train starts rolling, the little girl runs to keep up with him, shouting for her brother, who, looking out the window, thinks about how awesome it is to have a sister like her. Alone at the station, the young woman calls her friends and sets up a hangout at her place since her brother left a ton of stuff. In the exchange department, our boy thinks it's time to trade some pills and make some cash. The old man rolls up and asks if those boots the young dude bought are doing their job. The protagonist nods and says he's here to swap some strawberry juice and IQ pills. Then he drops the bomb that he needs 67 of them. Lee raises an eyebrow and warns that if the kid gets caught selling those pills on a large scale, he could get kicked out. With a grin, Fang shoots back that if he sells a little, he won't have any issues. The man points out that those red pills won't keep him going, especially since he's still in the first realm. Slapping the card on the table, the young dude says he knows that and asks the old man to hurry it up. Once he's back in his room, he hits up his manager and asks if he can sell the pills. The kid mentions that moving a big stash is tough and things will get messy if the inspectors catch wind. Hearing it's a risky move, the protagonist says he'll figure something else out. Ping heads over to the young redhead's room, who's blown away by the pile of stuff and asks if he's got home issues. Realizing he does, the boy says buying from a private company is way cheaper, but our guy says his profit would be tiny since he's also got 2 first-grade pills worth 10,300. He wraps it up by saying he needs to rake in more than 7 million to make it worth it. With no other options, the red-haired dude says he'll ask his dad if he wants some pills, and after a call, he spills that the man offered 9 million. Pumped, Fang says that's way more than he expected and decides to seal the deal. In no time, the cash drops into his account. Meanwhile, Yuan and her crew are cashing in big time selling the stuff from our boy. In the training building, Yang and a buddy wonder why everyone got called in on a day with no class. The protagonist annoys the pink-haired girl by saying her dark circles won't vanish just because she's snapping pics. The teachers stroll in, and the red-haired dude says he's got something to share about the special training program, mainly led by him, Lu, Chuan, Jianzhou, and Shiping. Plus, the man spills that the school's dean will be regulating the lectures. The students get super hyped about that last part. Curious, a young guy asks why the school suddenly decided to kick off special training. Getting straight to it, the teacher says that by year's end, all the major martial arts schools in the country will be in a tournament, which means they'll have to fight for the school's honor and win. Freaked out, the students wonder how they'll stand a chance against the top dogs. Furious, the red-haired dude tells them to stop being scared and remember they're also the elite and the future of Mo Wu. Then he drops that anyone who joins the training will snag 10 credits and that there'll be a reserve team too. Thinking hard, the protagonist tries to brainstorm a way to cash in. Continuing, the teacher says they'll also pick a class president to help the tutors keep everyone in the loop about the assembly. Ping steps up and says just 10 credits for being a jack-of-all-trades is way too low. Lu tells the young dude to chill, as whoever gets picked needs to be strong enough to take down some classmates, so leaving the lame tasks for the losers. The red-haired guy isn't feeling how she talks at all, but she insists she's just keeping it real to pump up the students. Next, she mentions that the team leader will switch every 2 weeks and each win will score 10 credits. Our boy realizes his advisor is trying to hook him up and figures that if he leads 6 times, he'll rack up a crazy 60 credits. The other teachers aren't on board, but the woman tells them to let the students voice their thoughts. Seeing how everyone's vibing with the idea, the red-haired dude decides to roll with it, and just as he's about to make the announcement, he gets interrupted by Lu, who calls out Fang, Zhao, and Yang for their skills. The students start debating what they think about the trio being in the running for president. With no one opposing, the advisor suggests a challenge between her and the other teacher, where if he loses, he'll have to work for her for free. Even knowing Tang Fang can't stand him, the protagonist says he's going to earn those credits. Lei pops up and says he wants to fight him first, while thinking he needs to be super careful not to lose to the young dude again. Accepting the challenge, our boy says no one should cry after the fight, and if the guy loses, he'll have to do whatever he wants. Grinning, the redhead says this rule goes for both of them. Fang charges in, ready to throw the first punch. Determined, his opponent claims he's unbeatable when it comes to speed and, with fire in his eyes, attacks all at once. But surprise, surprise, the protagonist dodges and shows he's not throwing fists, but rather using his leg. When he lands a hit, Zhao laughs, saying he's not the same weakling anymore. But then, bam, he gets a punch right in the face that lands square on his nose. Up close, our boy reminds him that the deal was no crying and no holding grudges, but since the young man insisted, he'll hit him until he's unrecognizable. The redhead lies there, stunned, and the advisor says, "That's enough." Thinking it over, Tang figures his student isn't dead, but he won't be seeing straight for a week. Turning around, the protagonist calls for Xiaoman, and her friend begs her not to go. Looking at what happened to Lei, the girl imagines how her face would look if she took a hit like that and, smiling, she asks if the young man will also beat her up. Ping says yes, he's gotta be fair, even to a pretty girl. The teacher agrees, saying compassion has no place in martial arts. Shaking like a leaf, the young girl surrenders and, so our boy is crowned the first-class president. The red-haired man tells his student still on the ground to come to his office for the training schedule after he rests, dismissing everyone right after. Ping tells Zhao to chill, wiping his tears. He promises he'll win next time. The protagonist laughs at him for crying. Annoyed, the young man says it's because he hit his nose. Outside with his friend, the young man says he only did that to stop the constant teasing. Thanking Lu for her help afterward, the woman says he doesn't need to. He earned everything himself and insists that it's good for the boy to grab the chance to rack up more credits and resources. Because if Mo Wu loses in the tournament, national resources will be slashed. The boys ask if she's underestimating them, assuming they'll lose before the tournament even kicks off. Denying it, the advisor says she knows how prestigious Mo Wu and Jing Wu are. But in the last 2 years, students from both schools have been taken down by a student from the military school, who is none other than Wang Jin. That's why the top schools are unhappy with how resources are spread, as many students are heading to Wudan, which now feels unstoppable. So, this is the perfect moment to flex their strengths and snag some resources. Ping remembers his chat with the martial artist and realizes tough times are coming. At lunchtime, he thinks of ways to speed up his training to catch up with Wang, but comments about him and his skills break his focus. A girl asks if the young man has an inferiority complex. Agreeing, another girl says she thinks he's strong, but not helping Chang was a bit much. Another girl chimes in, saying she doesn't think he's that bad, popping up out of nowhere. Young says he's jealous of both guys and girls since he almost got wrecked in the special class. That's why they shouldn't let anyone date someone so sadistic and violent, which means they need to warn even the younger sisters, so they don't fall into a trap. Eating, our boy vows to teach a lesson to the girl with pink hair, while remembering the day he didn't save Chang. During the night, a tremor hits, sending everyone into a panic and running. But when they get outside, the situation chills out. A teacher says the school has top-notch seismic resistance, so no one should sweat it. While his classmates believe and start heading back to their rooms, Ping wonders if that was really an earthquake. Since this doesn't usually happen in that area, we see he's right, as the tremor was caused by a group with some seriously unfriendly vibes. The next day, on the first day of special class, the students are hyped about a new teacher. Her name is Bai Ruoxi, and she's an instructor from the Weapons Academy. Before kicking off the lecture, the woman shows a confidentiality agreement and says everything they learn here is top secret. Plus, if anyone gets seriously hurt during the course, they'll have to deal with the consequences themselves. Thinking, Fang figures he can't just roll home empty-handed. Everyone's on board to stick around, so the teacher kicks off the first lesson. Bai dives into the story of how warriors got their recognition back in 1921 and claims martial artists still get perks because society totally needs them. This goes for all of humanity, no cap. But there's this enemy called a dungeon, and no one can really explain it. Just that its entrances and exits are underground, and when stuff moves in a cave, it shakes the ground. Turns out, in China, they've found 22 entrances. A student raises his hand and asks what the heck is inside. Without missing a beat, the teacher says it's a whole new world in there. Kinda like Earth, but no civilization and a bunch of wild creatures. Ruoxi shares that once. An entrance got wrecked, and a ton of monsters spilled out. The main dude wonders why the dungeon dwellers even bother coming up when they could chill down there and finds out there's still no solid answer, plus all energy sources and tech are useless inside. Thinking it over, he figures as long as his wallet's got cash, his ammo's unlimited and wonders if Wang could be the hero of that world since he's dedicated and can level up without a system. We see the boy dragging Chin out of somewhere while throwing every insult in the book at him. Being dragged, the young man says there's a huge energy stone in the village that could make them rich. The martial artist mentions that the dungeon in the magical city is weird, with a lot of empty villages. Maybe everyone bolted for the portal. His buddy tells him to chill. The magical union is solid. Calling him a fool, Jin says if it goes down like in Tiannan, the Grandmaster will have to shut the portal, which would leave them stuck there. While talking, the boy remembers his instructor's serious chat, who earnestly asked him to look after Nini, just in case things went south. Thinking it through, the young man decides he can't bail and search for the guy right now. Feng Qin suggests bringing Ping next time since he's super fast. The martial artist questions if he forgot that the kid's rank 1, and entering a dungeon without at least rank 3 is a death wish. Agreeing, the blue-haired boy switches topics and says sometimes he feels the dungeon world is way more beautiful. We zoom back to the school where the protagonist learns the basics of staff movements and how balance is key, and using strength to hit the opponent directly, making them go defensive so he can hit with a sweeping attack. With the boy on the ground, Chuan says he's shown all the basic moves, but the students crack a joke, saying they didn't see everything clearly. The man tells Fang to get back in line and says he'll call them one by one for a new demo. As he approaches, the protagonist's friend says his face looks squished and gets told to zip it. When he doesn't, the boy promises he'll take him out if he hears one more joke. We see our boy getting called by all the teachers for the demos, since he's the class president. After taking a bunch of hits and hearing tons of laughs, he says it's time for some practice matches for the students. The students say the young man is super strict and start competing over who can laugh the loudest. After training, they get a list of all the grandmasters in China. Surprised, the orange-haired boy asks how their director is in 41st place. Claiming it's normal, Shuimei explains that the list includes martial artists from the army, sects, police, and city protectors. Fang searches for Wang's name and is shocked to see he's in 27th place. While he thinks about how stoked he'd be to see his name on that list one day later, Lu says she just got back from the dungeon and things will be chill for a bit now. When asked if everything's really cool, she replies that yeah, but only for a hot minute, since the resource demand will spike soon. This means the university will also crank up the training level, so her students should head home, pack their bags, take 2 days off, and come back for a trip. Ping asks if the plan is to take them to a dungeon. Denying, the instructor says they're not ready to face a dungeon with such basic kung fu. She then asks if the protagonist remembers the reward he'll snag if he wins the tournament. Outside, he spots a sick ride and asks if that's his surprise. But the teacher tells him to quit dreaming and hop in the car. We zoom out to the edge of the Magic City, where, at a mansion, a security guard tells the crew that tickets are $10,000 each. But after getting a vitality pill, he lets everyone slide in. Looking around, our boy wonders what kind of gift the master has in store. As they step through the door, the young crew stumbles into a brawl. Then, out of nowhere, strawberry juice goes flying, making the girl with blue hair feel queasy. Lu says if she can't handle it, she can bounce, but she knows she'll miss out on future broadcasts. Seeing the chaos, Ping remembers the past and says he totally gets that vibe. A dude walks up and asks what brings the instructor here. Cutting to the chase, the woman tells the guy to make arrangements and take the main character to the morgue. Realizing he's not just visiting but staying, our boy asks what kind of gift that is. In another room, a trio of guys jokes that the boy will only last in the morgue for 30 minutes. One bets he'll only last 10, hinting he might have something up his sleeve. We shift to a dark room where Fang is chilling. Spotting the TV, he wonders if horror movies were really necessary. Then he walks over to one of the bodies to close its eyes, thinking, our boy figures the dude fortified his upper limbs and that a fatal blow to the throat did him in. But just as he's about to check out the other corpses, creepy creatures with red eyes pop up behind him. Using his leg, the protagonist sends them all flying, but when he sees a wire, he realizes it was all just a setup. Turns out those creatures were the corpses. After putting them all back, the young man apologizes, saying he didn't mean to. Then he helps 2 guys stuff a corpse in a bag. Speaking softly, the Mohawk guy tells Zhao that Fang doesn't seem scared of anything. Agreeing, the young man says that's only because the boy's seen some seriously scary stuff. Thinking, our boy says those are renegade martial artists who need to fight to escape the underworld, which just proves that in this world, a fighter without strength has to live like a regular person. After the tour, Lu takes the duo to chow down on a rare steak and says they better get used to it, because inside a dungeon, the food is either dehydrated or raw. Not caring that Shuimei feels sick, the woman asks how the boy feels after a day of handling corpses. After a moment, the protagonist says being a martial artist isn't as glamorous as it seems, but when his instructor mentions a life or death tournament, he freaks out. Regaining her cool, the girl with blue hair asks if she can join too, but the woman shuts her down, saying she's too weak. Irritated, the young girl insists she's not weak and isn't scared of martial artists, let alone a life or death tournament. Fengro says it doesn't matter because she still can't handle seeing red liquid spilled. To prove she can, the girl downs the steak in 1 bite, but a few seconds later she bolts to the bathroom. Curious, Ping asks his master why the girl is being so hard on herself, and she explains that Shuimei's dad was a level 4 martial artist who died in the Tiannan dungeon battle, which pushed her to get strong if she wanted to keep the family business alive. Hearing that his classmate is so motivated, the protagonist says he wants to be strong and rich to give his family a good life. His advisor then asks what he thinks about joining a regular match since he doesn't have the guts for a death match. With not much else going on, the young man says he's in. Back in the ring, the guy from before tells him to chill and reveals that if he wins, the prize is 50 grand per match, plus betting is on the table. Even knowing his opponent is way stronger, Fang bets $1 million on himself. Lu says she's betting $5 million on him, and if he loses, he'll owe her. Excited, the girl with blue hair also throws down $1,000,000. The announcer starts hyping up the crowd, warning that the fighters are about to enter the ring. He introduces everyone to Blackface, a martial artist at peak level 1, also known as the king of the arena. When the protagonist is announced as the Blade King, the crowd bursts into laughter, saying he's about to get wrecked. The other girl in the group rolls her eyes, calling his nickname dumb, but the teacher jumps in, saying the kid's just trying to mess with his opponent's head. This doesn't mean he's only good with the weapon in his name, but honestly, most people don't even catch that. Grinning, our dude says it's his first time in the ring and asks the big guy to take it easy on him. The guy smirks and says he'll think about it. Trying to lighten the mood, the young man jokes that there's no need for a fight to the death. But when the match kicks off, he's the first to charge in, launching a kick with his boots. Blackface barely blocks it and says he let his guard down for just a second, quickly realizing this kid is not your average level 1 intermediate. The crowd starts yelling for the big guy to step it up. Trying to respond, the man goes for a counterattack but gets slammed with a hook instead. He nearly topples over, but he tries to block the next hit, and after getting smacked again, he shouts out his defeat before dropping to his knees. With a smile, the protagonist thanks him, while everyone else is just standing there in shock, except for Lou, who's thinking that the opponent she picked wasn't exactly a winner. We switch to the bonus rescue office, where a guy hands over a briefcase stuffed with $3 million. Checking his balance in the system, Fang says that's not too shabby for a single day. Out of nowhere, a message pops up saying the system level has increased since the assets hit 10 million. With this, the young man can now use the bone reinforcement ability. Even knowing it's risky, the protagonist decides to give it a shot, and when it's done, he wonders if this means he's almost at the peak of rank 3. But what really shocks him is seeing $100 grand vanish from his wallet. Because this means to hit at least the peak of rank 1, he's gonna need to cough up another 10 million. Inside the car, the advisor glances at the duo through the rearview mirror and says the protagonist should pay her his share of the bet instead of hoarding the briefcase. The young man insists he's not that type, and, leaning closer to Shuimei, suggests she leave her winnings with him so she doesn't blow it all. Shouting, the young woman says she's not about that, and with a grin, the advisor asks why they don't just date and split the cash. Our dude says he's not focused on that right now, but honestly, he thinks it's a solid idea, which just makes Shuimei even more furious. In the logistics department, Tang announces that this month, they can start taking on missions and completing them. The news gets the students hyped, especially Ping, who's got another way to stack his cash. Suddenly, someone bursts in, shouting about what's going on. It's the dean who's fuming, saying the dangers in the dungeons have ramped up, and since everyone needs resources, winning the national sparring championship is crucial for the school to train even stronger martial artists. Calling the students idiots, Huang Jin says it's time for them to get serious. Hearing what he wanted, he reveals that 5 teams will be formed, each led by an instructor, so the group that completes the most missions will snag 100 extra credits. Plus, the top 10 will represent the magical university in the next championship. We find out that Fang, Zhao, Chang, Xiao, and Yun will be captains and can lead their own squad. When the list starts dropping, Shuimei feels relieved to be on the protagonist's team. While he thinks that, aside from 2 people, the rest of his team is pretty weak. Ding pops up and asks why his friend looks so bummed and says, if he could pick his own teammates, he'd totally choose to roll with the pretty girls. Tang hears this and swaps 2 people from the boys' group, making him freak out. Shipping will be the instructor helping Ping's team tackle the missions. So, after the captain picks the task, his only job is to make sure everyone makes it back in one piece. After thinking it over and sizing up his instructor, the protagonist starts checking out the missions and, knowing other teams are hunting for high-stakes missions, he figures the key is balancing time, difficulty, and reward. When he sees the chosen mission, Song says they're not weak enough to tackle something so easy and insists that the cash, when split, barely makes a dent, so it's way smarter to pick a rank 2 mission. Our boy asks if the dude has ever gone toe-to-toe with a rank 2 warrior and, when he hears he hasn't, he says this is no joke, cause the criminals thereafter will fight tooth and nail. Feeling bold, the boy says it won't be that tough since they've got the instructor backing them up. Giving up on the debate, Fang just says that, as the team captain, he's the one calling the shots. So for the next month, everyone's got to listen to him, and if they've got issues, just speak up. We find out the mission target is Lin Qing, last spotted in the northern part of the city. Since the guy loves to gamble, the plan is to search the underground casinos. Huimei chimes in that the area is packed with casinos and asks what happens if they can't find him. Turning around, our boy says if they don't find anything in 3 days, they'll bail and only take 10% of the loot. He then warns that the match is in an hour. Tang jokes that the boy is super scared, while his friend says it feels like they're starting from rock bottom. We're taken to one of the casinos in the northern part of the magical city, where, in disguise, Ping tells his crew to split into small teams and not to approach the target solo. Team A says they're at the entrance hall. Team B says they're at the back door. Hearing that security is watching, the captain tells everyone to chill and act normal. Thinking to himself, he realizes his group is full of rookies. We see the instructor is there too, but just as a spectator. Our boy figures the man won't help if things go south, maybe because the university wants a student to bite the dust. Since the focus now is on making an equivalent exchange, where some weaklings might have to go down for the new generation to rise. Suddenly, Team D shouts they spotted the target. Running, the protagonist tells everyone to gather and orders no one to attack until they're all there. The problem is, Tang doesn't know what the word wait means. When everyone arrives, the thug is already on the ground. Next to him, the boy with the tiara says he warned that wasting time for a tiny reward isn't worth it. Ping reminds him of the order to wait, but the young man says that wasn't necessary and insists that just because he's the leader doesn't mean he can waste everyone's time. Shouting, Shui Mei says if it weren't for the protagonist's idea, the boy wouldn't have even found the target, but the others are on Tang's side, even knowing that everything the captain did was to keep them safe. Standing up, the big guy says our boy should remember they're martial artists, not useless nobodies. Not caring, the young man says if he's not happy, he can switch teams and affirms that goes for everyone. The tiara guy decides to drop it, knowing deep down he can't take on Fang. Thinking, the protagonist realizes this mission made everyone too confident, which is a total red flag. In the dean's office, the instructors are chatting about how the captains are doing. Among various complaints, Shiping says our boy is a solid leader but way too cautious. Huangjin asks Zhou to keep an eye on the young man and stir up some trouble in the next mission, because he wants to see if he'll bail, ask for help, sell out his teammates, or fight to the death when things get tough. Back at the mission reception center, the old man says Tang will snag 25% of the rewards for taking down the target, along with the 2 who found him. So, the other 7 have to split the remaining 50% among themselves. When the complaints start rolling in, the big guy says it's all good, because the next mission will be tougher and everyone will get something. When asked if that's really the case, Ping stays quiet. With that, the young man steps up and picks a mission that requires taking out a rank 1 pinnacle warrior. Analyzing the situation, the protagonist wonders why they need someone with at least 3 pinnacles if the target only has 1. He also questions why the instructor didn't say anything, even knowing the mission is risky. Taking charge, he states he's down for this, but everyone needs to remember the target isn't a walk in the park. Therefore, if winning isn't an option, it's time to bounce, because staying alive is the bare minimum for finishing a mission. Tang says everyone knows this, but he's convinced they won't lose because of the numbers. Glancing at the teacher, our boy hopes it's just his overthinking kicking in. Next, we see him and Zhuimei cruising in a car to Cleanstone Village, way up north. When everyone rolls in, Ping says that, based on the intel, Shufeng's probably hiding in the seaside villages. Worried, the blue-haired girl asks why the army didn't just grab him if they knew exactly where he was. Our boy insists it's not that straightforward. The instructor pops up and says the army wants to give the new students some real-world experience, and the other reason is to send a little wake-up call to those rookie martial artists who think they're hot stuff, even without much strength. So the goal is to remind everyone that no matter how tough you think you are, if you mess up, the consequences will hit hard. Thinking about what he heard, the protagonist figures this teaching method makes sense and says out loud that they should start searching at night when it's less crowded. A young dude steps up and says searching during the day is smarter, since people are working and the target moves at night, which means he's probably chilling at the address given, so they just need to team up and search. Reflecting, Ping remembers it was Ching who found the bandit last time and realizes that even though the kid isn't super strong, he's pretty chill and knows how to think straight. Snapping back to reality, he decides to roll with the suggestion and kick off the hunt. When they reach the building, the protagonist tells Zhou, Peng, and Zhang to hang back and keep anyone from crashing the party. Tang's the one who's gonna knock on the door. The boy's shaking, and our boy asks where his guts went, reminding him of the sweet reward waiting after. A young dude wonders if it's cool to keep going without the instructor around. Grinning, Fang says totally, while thinking about how his hunch about the school's plan is coming true. The big guy gets the plan rolling and, knocking on the door, tells the bandit to come out and clear the trash from his doorstep. When nothing happens, he knocks harder and warns the target to hurry up or the cops will be called. From inside, a voice says he never threw out trash. Still banging on the door, Tang says there wasn't any of that before he moved in. Noticing something's off, the protagonist tells his buddy to dodge and we see something smash a huge hole in the door. That something was none other than the criminal's fist. With rage in his eyes, he decides to bail. Screaming, our boy tells his team to catch the pigeon. Just kidding, the target. Quickly, the big guy closes in on Shi Feng and tells him there's no way out. Showing it's not that easy, the man dodges the katana's swing. This freaks Ping out as he's face to face with him. Using his speed, the criminal changes direction, not wanting to fight straight up. Seeing the target coming at him, Suimei plants her staff on the ground and, finally, the bandit stops trying to run. Thinking, he says he feels underestimated with the army and investigation crew missing. But he figures it's not so bad, since the number of students shows no one there is super strong. So, there's no reason to waste time with them, because if reinforcements show up, things will get messy. The blue-haired girl gets ready to strike, unaware that Shifeng has other plans. Worried, the protagonist yells for his ally to dodge. Noticing the danger, the young woman quickly obeys and ends up clearing the way. Irritated, Tang says it seems Ping doesn't want to finish the mission, since he's messed things up. Our boy says the target is way too powerful, and if the girl hadn't dodged, she would have been toast. He then drops the bomb that they're up against someone of rank 2. This dude had his hand bones totally forged. The other students shout that's impossible since the target was listed as rank 1 in the info page. Determined, the big guy tells everyone not to back down, because even though the criminal is rank 2, he's just at the starting line. Running, the man wonders why the heck he's still being chased. Meanwhile, the protagonist questions why the mission system showed them wrong info. We see that the target's goal is to reach his escape boat, but then, out of nowhere, a super strong vibe makes him stop running. Looking at Shiping, he realizes the crew is just using him for practice, and decides if he's going down, he's taking someone with him. The group rolls up, and Fang quickly figures out the instructor is making the criminal attack them. This proves that university magic professors are all cold-blooded. They've seen a ton of life or death stuff, and even though they care about their own lives, they don't mind watching others bite the dust. Because if the weaklings bail, it helps the rest level up. Glancing sideways, she says taking one out is easy, but taking 2? Now that's worth it. Our boy also makes a call and thinks if they finish the mission, he'll throw down with the instructor. A girl steps up and asks if he really thinks the group can take on a rank 2. Determined, the young man says the only option now is to fight, and if no one pulls any dumb moves, victory is in the bag. So, it's just him, Tang, and Suimei who are gonna battle. The criminal figures the 3 must be the strongest, and the one in the middle is the team leader. So, he's starting with the girl. Screaming, the young woman says he shouldn't underestimate her, but she ends up having her staff blocked. Using her power, Feng snatches the weapon and uses it to block the attack from the tiara-wearing dude. At the same time, she jumps to dodge the protagonist's sweep. A boy says it'd be better to help the trio, but a girl insists all they can do is watch. Ching agrees and says it's better to chill and see what the captain will say. The target quickly takes care of the young woman and the big guy, while our boy seizes the chance to sneak attack him. But the man turns just in time, and their feet collide. Taking the worst of it, the criminal realizes the young man has a powerful leg. Tang takes the chance to attack, but not only does he get blocked again, he also loses his katana and, as a bonus, takes a hit to the side that makes his bones crack. The protagonist grabs the weapon that flew away and, with fire in his eyes, leaves Shy with one arm less. They stare at each other for a moment, and Fang realizes, as he attacks again, that his opponent chose to hold the sword with his remaining hand instead of dodging. This means he's got a ton of battle experience. It's at this moment that the rest of the group decides to jump in, causing the target to get hit by blows from all directions. Reflecting, our boy figures now that the man's lost a hand and is hurt in the leg, the rank difference doesn't matter, and victory is basically guaranteed. On the ground, the criminal starts laughing and says he underestimated the students, never thought he'd bite it at the hands of a bunch of kids. Even so, he grabs Tang and claims he's been chosen to join him. The big guy freaks out and starts shouting for help from the captain. A headbutt happens, and strawberry juice flies everywhere. The other students watch the scene completely in shock, but not because the tiara-wearing boy got hit, but because our boy used his own hands to finish off Shy, who finally drops dead to the ground. The girl in the pink coat starts crying with relief over the win, and the brown-eyed boy says it's better to check on everyone's condition. Approaching, Jume says through tears that it's all her fault, because if she hadn't lost her weapon, no one would have gotten hurt. Ping says she doesn't need to apologize, since taking the weapon from someone wasn't hard for the target. Agreeing, a young man states that rank 2 warriors are no joke. Ching says the mission was completed thanks to the captain, while the rest moans that 10 credits will be used to heal Tang's injuries. With the battle wrapped up, our boy says the next step is to find the instructor. To ask why a target at the peak of rank 1 suddenly jumped to rank 2. The old man shows up and says the group did worse than expected, since even with a numbers advantage, there were casualties. He then claims that, honestly, the target wasn't that strong after all. Disagreeing, Fang asks why they got fed wrong info. In response, Shipping says that's just how it goes, and that the target might have unexpectedly leveled up. Skeptical, our boy asks if it was the man who used his killing intent to make the thug attack them. Surprised, the old man thinks to himself that he didn't see the young dude having such a sharp sense and, then admits he messed up. Standing up, the protagonist says he thought his job was to help, not mess things up, and, asking the old man not to front, questions whether the info was bogus from the jump. Without answering, the instructor asks what he'll do if that's the case. Getting straight to it, the young dude says he wants the mission rewards doubled, just like the school's, which means 60 credits. On the ground, Tang says there's no way the school would roll with that. Agreeing, the old man says that not even rank 3 missions are that stacked. Shrugging, Ping says he'd never dare to cross a rank 6 expert. But since he wasn't fair and forced the target to bounce, this is a rule break, which means he'll have to hit up the director for a chat. Thinking, the instructor figures this attitude isn't bad for a team leader and decides to agree to give 60 credits, as long as everyone knows this is a one-time deal. Everyone starts to celebrate except for the protagonist. Approaching, Shipping says that when the young dude fights again, he shouldn't overthink it, since those who do are the ones who get wrecked faster. Thinking, our boy says the old man is right, as he got too cautious when he found out Feng was rank 2. And, for a leader, fearing death can mean the whole team bites the dust. We are taken to the main hall, where Ping grins seeing his wealth shoot up to 11 million. Lei's crew rolls in, and everyone's buzzing that someone kicked the bucket and 3 got hurt. In a panic, one of the injured says the instructors ghosted them and only showed up when things got dicey. Furious, another young dude grabs Lei and says he should have been the one to go instead of Kun. Watching from a distance, Shuimei says the protagonist was spot on when he said that to score big rewards, you gotta risk it all. A girl suggests they grind a bit more for about 2 days, before jumping into another mission. But the protagonist says they can't chill, as it's crucial to grab the chance for rewards to prep for future rank 2 missions, and stopping now would be like throwing in the towel. Turning around, he asks if anyone wants to do that. Tang says no, and that he'll be back to 100% soon from his injuries. The blue-haired girl agrees and says they're martial artists, so everyone nods that being scared isn't the move, while the captain of another team watches the group with a bummed-out look. After a bit, everyone gathers, and Ping says they can chill and take easy missions to rack up some rewards. With that, in the next few days, the young crew tackles various tasks, including one to help the cat cafe take care of the kitties. During the last mission, the protagonist whips out a sword, making the big guy realize he's getting way more ruthless. We find out that the young dude took out 4 criminals during the last 7 missions, which totally changed his vibe. We are taken to the practice building, where the team finds out they're in second place on the group leaderboard. Tang says it might be time to tackle a rank 2 mission. Our boy checks his progress and how many bones he's forged, quickly figuring that if he levels up just a bit more, he'll be able to take on a rank 2 solo, and since the whole crew is leveled up, raising the mission stakes won't be an issue. So he splits his group into 3 smaller squads, where one will handle rank 2 tasks, another will take care of rank 1 missions, and the last, with members still nursing injuries, will gather intel. Zuimei asks where the instructor fits into this whole thing. Tang then says that, since the dude isn't helping at all, it's better to let him do his own thing. The trio for the most dangerous missions heads to the construction sites of Shijiang to take out a cult apprentice named Tao Jin Cheng, 40 years old. The girl with blue hair wonders if it's smart for them to be standing still like that. Suddenly, a group of people rolls up. Taking the lead, Wang Huai from Dongwu University asks if they're from the Martial Arts University. With the info that the trio belongs to the Magic University, he extends his hand and introduces himself. He then states that he and his crew are there on a mission. We find out that the team is made up of students from different universities. Thinking to himself, our boy figures everyone there has about 250 blood and chi, and he's totally wondering why there are 2 different squads on this mission. Then, out of nowhere, cars roll up, signaling that the party's just getting started. A dude with pink hair hops out and asks who's repping the Magic University.